Chapter 39. Yi Qinghan pressed on step by step, wanting Qi Fantian to express his stance. Anyone would feel the pain of losing 300,000 gold taels, but Jian Shisan readily took out 100,000 gold taels, which was all he had saved for more than 20 years. It was just that he did not want to offend Yi Qinghan. "I don't accept this bet." Qi Fantian rejected without hesitation. "It doesn't matter if you don't admit it. Your son can admit it. Even if he doesn't admit it, 2,000 disciples of the Sky Sword sect are watching. He and Huochen have received so many Zhenyuan Dan and Blood Ignition Dan. Can you just deny it?" Yi Qinghan sneered. "So what if I deny it?" Qi Fantian asked disdainfully. "If I deny it, I will use Qi Lianshan's life to pay for the 300,000 gold taels. Although his life is worthless in my eyes, I am not a stingy person." Yi Qinghan glanced at Qi Lianshan, who was lying on the ground indifferently, as if he did not treat Qi Lianshan as a human life at all. Qi Fantian was so angry that his entire body trembled. Everyone was even more shocked because they knew that Yi Qinghan would really kill. Just as that disciple cursed, his throat was punched through by Yi Qinghan. He did not even have the chance to defend himself. No one was willing to bear this kind of thunderous anger. It doesn't matter if you don't have that much gold. You can use rare materials and high-grade crafting furnaces to pay for it. Qi Fandan, you can refuse, but I won't give you a second chance. Yi Qinghan's killing intent suddenly erupted as his divine sense locked onto the father and son. Qi Fantian trembled and felt his body stiffen. That sharp gaze and killing intent terrified him. He did not want to lose his only son because of this, but he also did not want to take out the foundation of the weapon sword peak to pay for it. In the end, he could only look at Jian Ao for help. Jian Ao was not stupid. This was a gambling debt, and it was promised in front of all the disciples of the sect. It could not be denied. Asking him to come forward, could it be that he had to take out money from the Sky Sword sect to clean up Qi Lianshan's mess? Wouldn't the Sky Sword sect be in chaos? "This is a gambling debt between you two. I won't be responsible," Jian Ao said impatiently. Yi Qinghan and Qi Fantian stood in a stalemate for a long time. Their auras grew stronger and stronger, forcing Qi Fantian to retreat. "Here are 150,000 taels of gold. Let me think of a way to get the rest." Qi Fantian threw out a large stack of gold notes and said coldly, "No, you must pay off your debt to Qi Jinfeng today." Yi Qinghan took the gold notes and sneered. "Don't be too arrogant. Everyone else can have 3 days, why can't I?" Qi Fantian asked coldly. "Because I don't like it. If you think you can save Qi Lianshan's life, you can be arrogant too," Yi Qinghan said arrogantly. Qi Fantian's aura stagnated, and he was speechless. "Lend me the best crafting furnace of your weapon sword peak for 3 days. It's worth 50,000 taels of gold. The rest can be replaced with materials," Yi Qinghan suggested. "Sure, but I can't lend you the earth fire of my weapon sword peak. Otherwise, 3 days of earth fire will cost you 100,000 taels of gold." Qi Fantian saw that Yi Qinghan was so generous, paying 50,000 taels of gold just to borrow the furnace for 3 days, so he asked for an exorbitant price. Yi Qinghan smiled coldly. "It was just earth fire. The earth fire could be triggered at the bottom of the cliff behind the broken sword peak. Why would he waste 100,000 taels of gold to make things easy for him? It was not a bad idea to annoy the weapon sword peak. I don't need your earth fire. I'll take the grade 4 crafting furnace behind the weapon sword peak now." Yi Qinghan shrugged and said indifferently, "Take it if you can. This old man has no objections." Qi Fantian laughed instead of being angry. The grade 4 crafting furnace behind the weapon sword peak was left behind by the ancestors. It was almost connected to the mountain and weighed 100,000 pounds. Moreover, it was stuck at the bottom of the mountain. It would take at least 3 to 5 days to get it out. Then Yi Qinghan's plan to borrow the crafting furnace would fail. Maybe when he found out, he could ask for an exorbitant price. Not only would he have to spit out the 150,000 taels of gold, he would also have to spit out a few 100,000 taels of gold. Yi Qinghan looked at Qi Fantian's sinister smile and knew that he was up to no good. He did not bother to say anything more and walked directly to the back of the weapon sword peak. Everyone was curious. Everyone knew about the crafting furnace in the weapon sword peak. It could not be taken away. Without earth fire, it could not be moved. What was the point of borrowing it? Russell, Jin Ao and the others followed, wanting to see what Yi Qinghan was up to. Qi Fantian sneered and followed closely with Qi Lianchen in his arms. Jian Chenxue smiled bitterly. Yi Qinghan was simply a hothead. He did not know anything before making a decision. Now everyone was going to see Yi Qinghan make a fool of himself. However, there was one person who had a strange expression on her face, and that was Master Concubine Yu. She always felt that the sneer on Yi Qinghan's face was a form of ridicule, and in her heart, she also felt that Yi Qinghan would not make a fool of himself in front of others, even though she did not know what method Yi Qinghan used to take away the grade 4 crafting furnace. The back of the weapon sword peak was covered in white snow. The sun emitted a golden light and the path was very clean. The steep mountain road seemed to lead to hell. The young disciples of the Sky Sword sect all stopped at the top. Only the peak masters and elders of the main peaks followed them down. Jian Chenxue was silent. Light flashed in his eyes as he tried to think of a way to help Yi Qinghan get out of this awkward situation. However, there was no solution at this point. Yi Qinghan's bloody clothes fluttered. Qi circulated around his body and healed his injuries. His aura became stronger and stronger. He quickly went down to the bottom of the cliff. The bottom of the cliff was full of spring. It was like the world of immortals. Hundreds of flowers bloomed and butterflies danced in the air. It was beautiful. Obviously, it was because of the earth fire. The temperature of the cold cliff was raised to spring all year round. In addition, there was a huge spirit gathering array. It was a good place to cultivate. What a waste! Yi Qinghan was disdainful. Such a good place was left unused and was only used for crafting. He wondered if the previous peak masters of the weapon sword peak were fools. Looking up, there was a round hole that was 6 meters in size. It led to the ground and extended in all directions. Obviously, it was to dissipate heat and prevent the volcano from erupting due to the high temperature. In addition to some array suppression, it was a very safe place. Yi Qinghan quickly walked into the cave. The temperature in the cave suddenly rose. Although it was not unbearably hot, mortals would definitely not be able to stand it. Yi Qinghan did not feel anything. After diving for 200 meters, the temperature rose again. The tunnel became more complicated. However, Yi Qinghan was always able to find the right path. This made Jian Ao and the rest very surprised. How did he do it? Jian Ao looked at Wang Shufei, asking with his eyes. Wang Shufei knew nothing about this grandson of his. Every action was a mystery. He could only smile bitterly and shake his head. The tunnel suddenly widened. One cave residence after another appeared in front of everyone. There were all kinds of crafting furnaces. The room in the center had 3 words carved on it. Smelting Divine Furnace. It was a domineering name. It could even refine a god. Although it was a little exaggerated, it told everyone that this smelting divine furnace was the most powerful grade 4 crafting furnace in the weapon sword peak. Yi Qinghan pushed open the door. A 5-meter-tall, 4-legged furnace appeared in front of them. It was incomparably black and emitted a thick aura of vicissitudes. The earth fire had been extinguished for many years. Now, even Weapon Fantian did not have the ability to use the smelting divine furnace to forge grade 4 spirit weapons. Yi Qinghan frowned. With the smelting divine furnace's width and height, it was impossible to pass through the tunnel. How did this furnace get in? The universe ring had a lot of space inside, but the entrance was very small. It was impossible to fit such a huge furnace. Yi Qinghan touched the smelting divine furnace. He found that the furnace was not made of the stones inside the mountain. It was made of rare metals. If you can get in, you can get out? Yi Qinghan whispered. His eyes flashed as he scanned the surrounding stone walls, looking for a secret passage. He touched the stone walls with his big hands. He closed his eyes and used his divine sense to enter the mountain. He kept walking around the stone walls. It looked very strange. What is he doing? There is only one passage here. Unless he raises the mountain behind the weapon sword peak, it is impossible to take it away. Everyone looked at each other and started to talk. Jian Chenxue seemed to have guessed Yi Qinghan's thoughts. She followed Yi Qinghan's back and started to hit the stone walls in the opposite direction. If there was really another passage, the sound would be different. Dong dong dong. The muffled voice reverberated in the cave and traveled further and further. Yi Qinghan frowned and turned to look at Jian Chenxue's serious expression. He could not help but laugh. It was the first time he had seen such a silly girl. If it was so easy to knock on the door, the Heaven Sword sect would have known. However, Yi Qinghan did not stop her. He focused his divine sense on the stone walls until it was 10 meters away. At the moment, his divine sense could only reach this far. After all, the resistance of the mountain was still very strong. After going around half a circle, Yi Qinghan and Jian Chenxue met. They looked at each other and smiled. Jian Chenxue's clear voice sounded. "There doesn't seem to be a passage." Yi Qinghan smiled and said lightly, "Let's change positions and try again." But the two did not care about the mocking expressions of the others and checked again clockwise. Yi Qinghan re-examined Jian Chenxue's route. After half an incense's time, Yi Qinghan stopped. His divine sense rushed into the stone walls and found that there was a huge piece of metal in the depths that completely blocked the path of his divine sense. Is it an iron mine or? Yi Qinghan was not sure. He gathered his true yuan and used his fist to hit the stone. His true yuan was like silk, penetrating every hole. It rushed 10 meters into the stone walls and hit a steel plate. The clear sound penetrated the stone walls. It's a steel plate. Yi Qinghan was relieved. He finally found a passage. "What's that sound?" Jian Ao quickly asked. "It's the sound of true yuan hitting a steel plate," Yi Qinghan explained lightly. Jian Chenxue was shocked. She had already hit it once, but she did not find anything inside. However, Yi Qinghan could find it, and his interest in him increased by 30%. Yi Qinghan quickly confirmed that the steel plate was about 10 meters tall and 7 to 8 meters wide. If there was a hole, it would be just enough for the smelting god furnace to go out. But, boom, before the crowd could even react in shock, Yi Qinghan shot out a beam of true origin qi from his fingertips. It collided with the dome and tore apart the massive boulder, revealing an icy iron plate underneath. How is this possible? Qi Fantian, who had just arrived, was shocked. He had been cultivating here for dozens of years and did not find this secret. However, Yi Qinghan found the secret door in just 1 hour. Chapter 40. The stone door opened, revealing an iron door. The stone cave was carved neatly and majestically. It looked like an ancient building. This passage even involved mechanisms. Looks like the founder of the weapon sword peak was an almighty blacksmith. I'm afraid this smelting divine furnace is not that simple. Yi Qinghan lowered his head in thought. He did not say it out loud. Otherwise, Qi Fantian would definitely think of ways to stop him from taking the smelting divine furnace. While everyone was still in shock, Yi Qinghan quickly walked in and found that there was a ring on one side of the iron plate. With a light touch, the iron plate opened again, revealing a huge passage that was at least twice as wide as the one they had come from. The passage was full of light, as if it was a completely different world. Everyone was dumbfounded. Where does this lead to? Jian Ao asked in shock. I don't know. I've never heard of a passage here. The weapon sword peak doesn't have any records either. Qi Fantian replied with certainty. It leads to the outside of Jiangning County. This is the escape route of the Sky Sword sect. However, because it has been a long time, this route has been sealed. No one knows about it. Yi Qinghan calmly reminded. No one is allowed to speak of what happened today. Junior Sister Yu quickly informed the Grand Elder to come here. Jian Ao said seriously. Okay. Senior Sister Yu hurriedly left the cave and rushed to the main sword peak. Qinghan, you want to borrow the furnace to refine weapons? Jian Ao asked in a low voice. Yes. Yi Qinghan nodded. Even if you can really take this giant away, it will definitely alarm a lot of people. Why don't you shake hands with your senior Uncle Qi and make peace? You can refine weapons here. Besides, Your senior Uncle Chi is a third-grade blacksmith. He might be able to help you. Jian Ao's attitude finally softened. He did not want to expose this passage. Chi Fantian sneered. He had cultivated for nearly 100 years and was only a third-grade blacksmith. Yi Qinghan was just a kid in his eyes. Could he refine weapons? You want me to refine weapons for him? Thief. Chi Fantian sneered and said arrogantly, use my earth fire. 100,000 gold, not a single coin less. If I do it, I will need another 200,000 gold. Within 3 days, I will definitely be able to refine a third-grade spirit weapon for you. However, you have to provide the materials yourself. Yi Qinghan seemed to have heard the funniest joke. Using such precious 5th-grade spirit weapon. That would be truly sick. Could you please not go to Xiuji trading firm? If I want you Qinghan. The ridicule caused Chi Fantian's face to turn ashen. With a face full of disdain, he shouted, if you have the ability, then forge a 4th-grade spirit weapon for me to see. After you forge it, this old man will kneel down and kowtow to you, admitting his mistake, and acknowledge you as his master. Don't boast. What if you can't forge a Tier 4 spirit weapon? It seemed that both father and son liked to gamble, and they would definitely lose every time they gambled. You want to make a bet with me too? Fine, I'll make a bet with you. If I can't forge a combat weapon above grade 4, not only will I return you 300,000 taels of silver, I'll also give you 500,000 taels of gold. If you lose, I won't accept you as my disciple, so you'll have to pay me 30 low spirit crystals. How about it? Yi Qinghan revealed an evil smile as he asked indifferently, 30 spirit crystals? The corner of Chi Fantian's mouth twitched. That was not a simple 300,000 taels of gold. It might cost 400,000 taels of gold. Most importantly, there might not be a way to buy it. This bet was not small. A 3rd-grade lower-grade spirit weapon was only worth 10 lower-grade spirit crystals. If it was a 4th-grade spirit weapon, even if it was a lower-grade spirit weapon, it would cost at least 10,000 lower-grade spirit crystals. They were not on the same level. He can't be a 4th-grade spirit refiner. There is only one 3rd-grade peak spirit refiner in the entire kingdom of Green Sunday. There are 4 or 5 4th-grade spirit refiners on Owl Falling Star, but they are all a few hundred years old. I will win for sure. Let's make a bet with him. Chi Fantian thought for a while and felt that Yi Qinghan was tricking him. He replied confidently, okay, I'll make a bet with you. Just as Chi Fantian agreed, Yi Qinghan suddenly turned to look at the entrance of the cave. He saw a white-haired old man standing there with Master Yu standing respectfully at the side like a child. Yi Qinghan looked at the old man. All the pores on his body contracted as an aura of death enveloped him. So strong. Close to the grotto heaven realm. He's definitely not someone Jian Ao and the others can compare to. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone brightly. He looked at the old man without a trace of fear. The old man was also looking at him expressionlessly, as if he wanted to see through Yi Qinghan's nature. You are Yi Chen's son, Yi Qinghan? The old man was silent for a long time before he asked in a low voice. Yi Qinghan's aura sank as he coldly asked, it seems you know who he is. He wasted so much energy, yet he's a coward who doesn't even dare to protect his disciples. What Tao does he cultivate? Impudent. How can you humiliate the Grand Elder? Jian Ao was furious. He wanted to draw his sword and cut down Yi Qinghan. Stand down. The Grand Elder frowned and waved his hand. The temperature in the cave seemed to have dropped by dozens of degrees. It was so quiet that even the sound of breathing could be heard. No one expected Yi Qinghan to be so domineering and arrogant. He didn't even give face to the Grand Elder and directly called him a coward. You are the first person who dares to call me that. The old man's voice was hoarse. He was past his prime and had lost some of his sharpness. If someone had called him that 10 years ago, he would have definitely killed them. I said that because you are indeed a coward. Whether that Sky Sword sect disciple who died back then was my father or not, I will still speak up for him. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone with a cold light as he said coldly, someone like you who is nearing the end of your life should be strong and create a good environment for Sky Sword sect to develop. Unfortunately, you missed the opportunity. Now you only have 2 or 3 years left. A hero past his prime and can no longer do anything. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone brightly as he pointed out the Grand Elder's current situation. Just as he said, the Grand Elder's vitality had been exhausted and he could only live for 2 or 3 years at most. You are indeed not ordinary. You can actually see through this old man's origin. The Grand Elder's expression dimmed as he shook his head. This old man was wrong. I missed the final glory. Qi Fantian's face turned pale. He originally thought that the Grand Elder would be furious and directly kill Yi Qinghan. He did not expect him to take the initiative to admit his mistake. From today onwards, no one is allowed to speak of this passage. No one is allowed to go near it. Whoever dares to leak a single word will be considered a traitor to the sect. Their entire family will be executed. The Grand Elder glanced at the 8 Peak Masters and Jian Chenxue. Including the Grand Elder, there were only 11 people who knew about this passage. Understood. Jian Ao and the others hurriedly said respectfully. Seal the stone door. The Grand Elder said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan did not say anything. His true essence bounced to the dome again. The iron door closed and the stone wall sealed itself without any gaps. It was obvious that the ancestor who had built this place had reached the peak of the art of mechanisms. I need to borrow the smelting divine furnace. Within 3 days, no one is allowed to come near except for Jian Chenxue who brings me food. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. Yi Qinghan's eyes shot out killing intent as he looked down on everyone. His aura rose like that of a Grotto Heaven realm expert. The Grand Elder's pupils contracted as his aura shot out. He fought against Yi Qinghan's aura, but found that his aura was constantly weakening. They were not on the same level at all. The Grand Elder gave up fighting against Yi Qinghan and turned to Qi Fantian. From today onwards, the smelting room of Weapon Sword Peak will be completely closed. Qi Fantian, take the disciples and move all the furnaces away. Qi Fantian did not dare to be arrogant in front of the Grand Elder. He was submissive. However, a vicious light flashed in the corner of his eyes. He glanced at Yi Qinghan and quickly hid it. The stone door of the smelting divine furnace was closed. Jian Chenxue stood guard outside. Yi Qinghan turned on the earth fire and heated up the smelting divine furnace. The temperature rose to more than 1,000 degrees. Then he put the purple gold cold steel and the red flame sand into the furnace. These 2 materials were 5th grade materials. They were extremely difficult to melt. The melting point had to be more than 10,000 degrees. Under normal circumstances, the smelting furnace would have been melted. Therefore, if one wanted to make a real 5th grade heavy craze, one would need a furnace above 5th grade. Yi Qinghan mobilized all the true essence in his body and slapped his palms on the smelting divine furnace. The horrifying temperature burned his arms, giving off white smoke. The tearing pain made his face hideous. However, he did not show any sign of retreating. Instead, he used it to refine his body. His true essence rushed into the furnace, raising the temperature inside again and triggering the purer earth fire to calcine the materials. As time passed, Yi Qinghan's realm was limited. His true essence was not pure enough. He could only rely on time to slowly melt the red flame sand and other materials. True elemental dawn were swallowed by Yi Qinghan as if they were free. His corporeal body glowed with a purple light circulating around. Even Jian Chenxue, who was outside the refining room, could feel the true elemental dawn flooding the room. Such a strong true essence fluctuation. Is he really at the early stage of the blood ignition realm? Jian Chenxue was shocked. She wanted to go in and take a look. However, she was worried that she would disturb Yi Qinghan. In the end, she restrained herself. The disciples of the Weapon Sword Peak moved away all the smelting furnaces under the cliff and found another place to store them. Many people curiously looked at Jian Chenxue, who was standing guard outside the smelting divine furnace room, but was scolded away by Jian Ao and the others. Jian Chenxue asked someone to bring in the tableware and materials. Then, she used an empty room to cook for Yi Qinghan. She used the rest of her time to cultivate. She, who had just broken through to the middle stage of the blood ignition realm, cultivated bitterly in the quiet room. Her progress was very fast. Coupled with the abundant spirit chi in this place, her cultivation progressed by leaps and bounds. At night, Jian Chenxue personally prepared the food and came to the smelting divine furnace room. She saw that Yi Qinghan had become calm like a volcano. He was restrained and deep, making others unable to see through him. However, she knew that he was very dangerous. Gulp. Yi Qinghan had wasted a large amount of blood qi and true essence in one day. He was extremely tired and hungry. Smelling the fragrance, he retracted his palm and looked at the food in Jian Chenxue's hand. He couldn't help but feel satisfied. It seemed that this Jian Chenxue didn't have the temper of a princess. Thanks. Yi Qinghan lightly nodded and said, "You're welcome. Since I lost, I naturally have to be your servant for 2 months." Jian Chenxue smiled and said. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He sat cross-legged on the ground and ate in large mouthfuls to replenish his energy. "Senior brother Yi, are you forging a top-grade spirit weapon?" Jian Chenxue curiously asked. Chapter 41. Jian Chenxue looked at Yi Qinghan with curiosity. Her clear eyes were as bright as jewels. She looked at him expectantly, wanting to know the answer. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly. He looked at the smelting divine furnace and said softly, "I don't know the grade of the smelting divine furnace yet. If it is grade 5 or higher, I should be able to forge a grade 5 7-foot heavy berserker. If it is grade 4, I will have to waste materials and lower the grade." The 4th grade and the 5th grade were 2 different grades. Anything below the 4th grade was known as a spirit weapon, the 5th grade was known as a combat weapon, the 6th grade was known as a revered weapon, the 7th grade was known as an immortal treasure, the 8th grade was known as a supreme treasure, and the 9th grade was known as an imperial weapon. You are in the blood ignition realm, how can you forge a grade 5 combat weapon? Jian Chenxue asked in surprise. Because I am Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan said calmly, but his voice was filled with arrogance. Just because he was Yi Qinghan, he could do anything. Jian Chenxue was stunned. She pinched her battle robe and wanted to say something, but she didn't know how to start. "I destroyed your Jade Lady Mother sword. 3 days later, I will compensate you with 2 Jade Lady Mother swords of grade 4 and above," Yi Qinghan said with a hoarse voice. Jian Chenxue's eyes shone brightly. A mother-son sword above the 4th grade was priceless. There were only a few 4th grade spiritual weapons in the entire kingdom of Green Sunday. Was Yi Qinghan really a nouveau riche for gifting? Really? Jian Chenxue asked excitedly. Of course. In addition to taking care of you for 2 months, I will give you a few words of advice. Your Jade Lady sword art is too slow and its power is too weak. It is not suitable for you to cultivate. If I were you, I would give up as soon as possible, Yi Qinghan reminded her in a low voice. The Jade Lady sword art is the only grade 2 sword art in my Jade Lady peak. If I don't cultivate the Jade Lady sword art, what should I cultivate? Jian Chenxue asked back. Yi Qinghan frowned. He just remembered that the Sky Sword sect was only a grade 9 sect. The entire Owl Falling Star was at most equal to a grade 4 force under the Yi clan. They didn't have any high-grade martial arts. In terms of martial arts techniques, Yi Qinghan's knowledge contained more martial arts techniques than any 5th-rank clan scripture pavilion. They were all martial arts techniques that he had obtained through years of fighting and killing. Regardless of their level, he had collected them all. With his photographic memory, he only needed to look at them once. Yi Qinghan was silent for a long time. He searched his memories in his sea of consciousness, trying to find a suitable sword art for Jian Chenxue. Brother Qingyu's bones swords bone. Bone swords bones swords bones sword art. Bones bone, s's tubit, s bones. And bone. Tududu her tutudu. Is a. Bonus. Yi Qinghan pondered, but did not say anything. Because he had been betrayed before, he did not want to be betrayed again. Jian Chenxue looked at the silent Yi Qinghan, not saying anything. Her eyes were full of expectation, like a little girl waiting for a lollipop from a strange uncle. If you don't have enough strength, you can train. In terms of speed, I'll teach you a grade 3 footwork called Misty Flying Immortal. If you train it to the peak, you can reach the peak of the bitter sea stage. Combined with your jade sword art, you can exert a good strength. In the end, Yi Qinghan did not pass on the bone sword art to Jian Chenxue. But he was not stingy. Pressing his fingertip on Jian Chenxue's forehead, he passed on all the footwork and cultivation experiences of the misty flying immortal to her. Jian Chenxue felt the memories, looking at Yi Qinghan as if she was looking at a god. There was a touch of emotion and respect in her eyes. Grade 3. The strongest martial arts of the Sky Sword sect. And in terms of quality, the Misty Flying Immortal was far superior to the Seven Swords Immortal Chasing technique. Thank you. Jian Chenxue was so excited that she did not know where to place her hands. She looked very cute. Go out? Yi Qinghan finished eating everything, without the slightest emotional fluctuation. If it was another man looking at Jian Chenxue, in such a place, their heart would have already begun to ripple. Jian Chenxue looked at Yi Qinghan, who was like an old monk who had experienced the vicissitudes of life. There was not the slightest bit of evil in his eyes. He did not look like a 17 or 18-year-old boy at all. A strange thought emerged in her heart, and then her face turned red. She hurriedly carried the plate and ran out of the refining room. After a sleepless night, Yi Qinghan used the True Yuan pill and the Blood Ignition pill to desperately calcine the materials. His strength had obviously risen a lot, and the True Yuan in his Qi Sea had turned from a trickle into a vast river, surging violently. The next day, early in the morning on the Broken Sword Peak, the parrot looked at the jars of purple light wine, drooling. The entire courtyard was shrouded in purple light, full of immortal aura. Tisk. Master promised to give that old man Qingjing 10 jars, and there are still 5 left. No matter what, there should be one for me. The parrot stood on top of the purple light wine, licking its wings. It wanted to tear open a jar to satisfy its craving, but it was afraid that Yi Qinghan would find trouble with it. Find the little master, I will share a jar with her. Hee. Master loves his little sister so much he will definitely not get angry. The parrot made up its mind and immediately rushed out of the courtyard. On the martial arts field, Yi Mingxi was wearing a long robe, like a little angel who had walked out of a painting. She was cultivating the Qi cultivation extreme heavenly Yuan art. Her movements were very smooth, without the slightest bit of true Yuan fluctuation. It was like an ordinary routine, but it invisibly affected the power, which made people feel surprised. The Sky Sword sect had never had such a big child. Coupled with her incomparably cute appearance, she attracted countless people to watch. Hey, little sister, what martial arts are you practicing? A young disciple took the initiative to strike up a conversation. I am not telling you. Yi Mingxi tenderly snorted and began to gradually use her true Yuan. Her steps were as fast as lightning, like a hidden dragon swimming in the sky, and her power like thunder. Xiao. Yi Mingxi did not break through to the Blood Ignition realm, but her true Yuan was circulating around her body. It was very obvious, and it stunned everyone. What a pair of weirdos. Senior brother Yi is so savage. Who would have thought that his 5-year-old sister would also be so terrifying? I wonder how strong she is? Everyone was discussing spiritedly as they curiously stared at the little guy in the center of the martial arts field. Won't we know if we go up and try? Damn, if we injure her, senior brother Yi will definitely tear me apart. A few young disciples were discussing in low voices. Extreme space-shattering style. Xiao, Yi Mingxi's toes touched the ground, and her body was like a dragonfly. She transformed into a bolt of lightning and punched out. Her true Yuan poured out and pierced through the sky 10 meters away before dissipating into nothingness. It did not attract any destructive power. Everyone laughed loudly. Looking at Yi Mingxi's imposing manner, they thought that there would be a landslide, but it turned out that it was all bark and no bite. Yi Mingxi did not pay attention to them and continued to cultivate. The true Yuan within her body was slowly expanding. Although it was very slow, it was effective. The crowd did not understand. From their initial laughter, it turned into wild laughter and ridicule. This caused Yi Mingxi to stop and angrily glare at them. A group of frogs at the bottom of a well. If you annoy me, I'll beat you until you have to look for your teeth on the ground. Yi Mingxi was dissatisfied. With a snort, she turned around and walked away. At this moment, the parrot appeared on Yi Mingxi's shoulder with a flattering expression. It covered her ears with its wings and whispered a few words. Yi Mingxi's eyes lit up and she immediately rushed towards the Shattering Sword Peak. Shattering Sword Peak, Yi Qinghan's courtyard. Yi Mingxi looked at the jars of purple light wine that were emitting a rich spiritual energy. She wiped her mouth and ran away with a jar. Hey! Little master, don't run. We'll split it half. The parrot quickly called out. I'm not splitting it with you. You take one jar yourself. Yi Mingxi said seriously as she hugged the purple light wine like a treasure. I'm afraid that master will become angry. Taking 2 jars at once is too much. 1 jar is fine, we'll split it half. Anyway, you can't drink that much. Did you forget last time? You collapsed after a bowl of wine. The parrot said aggrievedly. Anyway, I'm not splitting it with you. Yi Mingxi stubbornly refused the parrot's proposal. Parrot, this little liar. You just promised to split it with me, but now you're going back on your word. But it doesn't matter, you can drink at most 2 bowls before collapsing. The rest is all mine. The parrot secretly thought for a while and said to Yi Mingxi in a serious manner. All right, we'll take 1 jar each. Yi Mingxi hugged the wine jars and ran to her room. She closed the doors and windows, opened the wine jars and smelled the wine fragrance. Her intoxicated expression was very cute. The parrot tiptoed under the eaves and quietly waited for Yi Mingxi to collapse. Sure enough, Yi Mingxi couldn't drink. After drinking a few mouthfuls, the alcohol rushed to her head. Yi Mingxi didn't even last 3 breaths of time and fell asleep on the bed. The parrot climbed in through the window and took a deep breath in front of the wine jar. A large amount of spirit wine was swallowed by it. The remaining half jar was full of water. I can't let her find out. The parrot laughed sinisterly. It got half a jar of ordinary turbid wine from outside and poured it all in. The next day, Yi Mingxi woke up and felt that the true essence in her body had increased by a lot. She drank another mouthful of wine but directly spat it out. Pooey! Yi Mingxi was stunned. She kept sticking out her small tongue and looked at the wine jar. She scratched her head and said, Why does it taste wrong? It tastes so bad. At this moment, the parrot walked in pretending to be a good person and asked flatteringly, Little master, let me drink a mouthful. Stupid bird! Did you swap the purple light wine? Yi Mingxi was very smart and directly questioned. Absolutely not. I swear on my integrity. The parrot said solemnly. You have integrity? Yi Mingxi questioned. Looking at the turbid wine jar, where was the purple light wine? If it wasn't swapped, then what was going on? This divine bird's integrity is no worse than my integrity. I only know how to rob, not steal. The parrot said angrily. What's wrong with this purple light wine? Yi Mingxi still didn't believe it. She pouted and asked angrily. Did you not seal the wine jar when you were drunk yesterday and let the spirit energy escape? Only alcohol and water are left? The parrot kindly reminded her. Yi Mingxi scratched her small head. She was confused by the parrot's words. She pretended to suddenly understand. No wonder it tastes weird. I'll give the rest to you. I don't want it anymore. Yi Mingxi generously threw the wine jar to the side. When she came to the martial arts practice field again, she found that there was a sea of people there. Registration for the elite competition has begun. I heard that there are many rewards for this year's competition. Let's go and try. Who knows, we might be able to enter the top 20. Stop dreaming. This year, all the young disciples from the 8 main peaks are participating. With the screams of those in the blood ignition realm, there's nothing for us to do. We can just watch the show. A few disciples passed by Yi Mingxi and whispered, Hee, this year's Broken Sword Peak will have a good show to watch. Yi Qinghan is in seclusion refining. When he comes out, the registration will be over. If no one participates in the competition, the Broken Sword Peak will be disbanded. Chapter 42. Wang Shufei's face was gloomy as he sat in front of the table. The other peaks were busy, But his broken sword peak was so shabby that there wasn't even a single person who signed up for the competition. Of course, the main reason was that other than Yi Qinghan and Yi Mingxi, there wasn't a third young disciple. Yi Qinghan was currently in seclusion forging a grade 5 combat weapon, so there was only the 5-year-old Yi Mingxi. Was she going to represent the broken sword peak? AI, with Qinghan's personality, I don't think he's interested in competing with these kids. What should I do? Do I really have to rebuild the broken sword peak? Wang Shufei said to himself. This year's elite competition was very important because they had to represent Jiangning County in the Kingdom of Azure Sun and select the most outstanding disciples to study in the Broken Martial Academy. Not only were the rewards generous, once a disciple entered the Broken Martial Academy, the Sky Sword sect's name would spread throughout the kingdom and they would receive the support of the Kingdom of Azure Sunday. The Sky Sword sect valued this competition, and so did the other sections. The Sky Sword sect was only one of the weaker sects in the Kingdom of Azure Sunday. Although they were both grade 2, the difference was huge. Grandfather, what are you doing? Yi Mingxi came to the table and asked curiously. Oh, Mingxi, nothing. I'm just looking to see if anyone is willing to join the Broken Sword Peak and help them participate in the competition. Wang Shufei squeezed out a smile and said gently, Oh, why don't they join the Broken Sword Peak? Yi Mingxi was puzzled. Logically speaking, the Broken Sword Peak should have more resources since there were fewer people. Joining the Broken Sword Peak should be more comfortable than joining the other peaks. Wang Shufei bitterly smiled. Who in Jiangning County didn't know that the Broken Sword Peak had a bad relationship with the County King's mansion? Who would dare to join the Broken Sword Peak? You're still young, you'll understand in the future. Wang Shufei didn't want Yi Mingxi to participate in this matter, so he changed the topic and asked, Mingxi, what's your cultivation level now? AI, grandfather, the cultivation technique brother gave me is so hard to cultivate. I'm only at the 9th level of qi refining, stuck at the blood ignition realm. Yi Mingxi said with a face full of regret. Fifth. Wang Shufei, who had just taken a sip of tea, was shocked by Yi Mingxi. 5 years old. The 9th level of qi refinement, equivalent to a grand martial artist and the 9th level of body refinements. How could the other disciples endure this? 9th stage of qi refining? Can you defeat that person? Wang Shufei did not believe in Yi Mingxi's battle prowess. He pointed to a disciple at the 5th level of body refinement and asked, No problem. This kind of rookie can't even beat my family's divine bird. He definitely can't beat me. Yi Mingxi said solemnly. Hey, little master, what are you talking about? What do you mean you can't even beat me? Am I that weak? The parrot dragged its stout body and trotted over. Then, it asked in a dissatisfied tone. Shut up. Could it be that you are stronger than me? Yi Mingxi threatened with her eyes wide open. The parrot shook its head again and again. As the saying goes, riches and honor are corrupted and might must be subdued. Seeing Yi Mingxi ask this question, how could it dare to say that it was stronger than her? Grandfather, I will represent Broken Sword Peak in the elite competition. After Yi Mingxi dealt with the parrot, she felt that she could solve some problems for her family, so she took the initiative to propose. No, you're still young. If you get hurt, how am I going to explain it to your mother? Wang Shufei refused decisively. Do you think I'm 3 or 4 years old? I'm already 5 years old. I can fight for Broken Sword Peak. My brother told me that strength is obtained through fighting, not through training. I don't care. Grandfather, quickly let me sign up. Otherwise, I'll ask my brother to sign me up. Yi Mingxi acted tough and coquettishly at the same time. She looked like a clown. A 5-year-old kid actually looked down on a 3 or 4-year-old kid. I'll sign you up? Wang Shufei was helpless. He could only send her away and send someone to inquire about Yi Qinghan's opinion. Half an hour later, Yi Qinghan only sent a sentence that seemed somewhat ruthless. Let go. You know whether you live or die. Wang Shufei obviously didn't think that Yi Qinghan would send out such a cold sentence. Yi Mingxi was only 5 years old. However, he could also see that Yi Qinghan really cared about Yi Mingxi. He felt that since Yi Qinghan was confident in Yi Mingxi's strength, there was no reason for him to worry. Thus, he sent Yi Mingxi's name. When the Heaven Sword sect found out that someone from Broken Sword Peak was participating, they all thought that it would be Yi Qinghan. They didn't expect it to be the 5-year-old Yi Mingxi. Their laughter spread throughout the Heaven Sword sect and reverberated through the valley. Late at night, in the king's mansion, Sidu Yunxiao faced a black-clothed man without any emotion. He was like a dead man. "If you have something to say, say it," Sidu Yunxiao said coldly. "There's news from the Sky Sword sect that Yi Qinghan is forging a 4th-grade spirit weapon at the back of the Weapon Sword Peak. His strength is already comparable to the middle or even the peak of the Blood Ignition realm. If he has a 4th-grade spirit weapon, it will be very difficult to deal with him," the black-clothed man said respectfully. A bastard's son wants to make a comeback." Situ Yunxiao stepped out of the king's mansion and his figure quickly disappeared from Jiangning County. In the north of Jiangning County, Gaoyang County was one of the largest counties in the Kingdom of Azure Sunday. It was the pinnacle of 2nd-grade cities and was much larger than Jiangning County. Not only was there the king's mansion in Gaoyang County, but there was also a terrifying organization called Blood Fiends. Even the Kingdom of Azure Sun had to treat them with respect. It was rumored that they had never failed in their mission. However, they seemed to have failed once, and it was at the hands of Yi Qinghan. Gaoyang County, Blood Overlooking Street. The stone slabs were all red, as if they were soaked in blood. It was eerie and terrifying. Usually, not many people would be willing to walk around here. This was the property of Blood Fiends. The area within 1,000 meters was filled with a sinister aura. Large red lanterns hung high in the sky, and the silence made one's hair stand on end. Sidu Yunxiao's face was covered with a black veil and his body was tightly wrapped. When he stepped into the Blood Fiends branch, he felt as if he had entered hell. Target, identity. A hoarse and gloomy voice came from the room, causing one's scalp to go numb. Sidu Yunxiao took out a token from his bosom. The words blood was engraved on it, and the number 4 was engraved at the bottom right corner. It was incomparably gloomy and bloody, as if it had been taken out from a pool of blood. So it's VIP number 4. The mission failed last time and neglected the existence of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Moreover, his cultivation is not at the body refinement realm as you said, so you need to add spirit crystals. The voice came from the room again, breaking the silence of the night. His cultivation is at the early stage of the Blood Ignition realm, but his battle prowess is equivalent to the peak of the Blood Ignition realm. He is currently at the back mountain of the Sky Sword sect's Weapon Sword Peak. I want to see his head within 3 days. You can state the price. Sidu Yunxiao's voice was low and hoarse. It was obvious that he was deliberately concealing it. Peak of the Blood Ignition realm? It seems that this old man will have to personally take action. Due to the failure of the mission last time, Blood Fiends will give you a certain amount of compensation. Originally, a genius of this level would require 100 low-grade spirit crystals as a reward. This time, I'll charge you 70. The person in the room still did not reveal himself and remained hidden in the darkness. 70 low-grade spirit crystals. To be able to exchange for Mr. Ma personally taking action, it's worth it. Situ Yunxiao put down 30 low-grade spirit crystals as a deposit and said in a low voice, 3 days later, I'll come to take the head. I hope Mr. Ma will not disappoint me. This old man has taken action thousands of times in his life and killed countless enemies. Even a great expert who was about to break through to the 2nd star of the Bitter Sea stage was killed by me. Do I need you to worry about a little kid? The voice in the room was filled with dissatisfaction and arrogance. The corners of Sidu Yunxiao's mouth rose slightly. He bowed slightly and cupped his fists. Then I'll wait for the good news. Situ Yunxiao retreated and an old man in black armor walked out of the room. He wore a ghost tooth mask and looked like a demon. With a wave of his hand, he took the spirit crystals and left the Blood Overlooking Street. The next day, the Sky Sword sect gathered at the martial arts practice field. Jian Ao and the other 8 peak masters were present. Nearly half of the disciples had signed up to compete for the 24 elite spots. They would represent the Sky Sword sect in the Qingyang Kingdom competition and strive to enter the Broken Martial Academy. There was only one person from the Broken Sword Peak, and he was only 5 years old. However, after the arrogance of the parrot, he dominated the competition. The first place of this year's elite competition will definitely belong to my little master. If you don't agree, then come fight me. Everyone looked at the fat parrot, wanting to pluck off its feathers and roast it. Some people's gazes made the parrot's scalp numb. However, Yi Qinghan did not care about all this. He wholeheartedly focused on refining. After 2 days and 1 night of hard work, the scarlet flame sand and the purple gold cold iron had finally melted. The golden liquid surged and the temperature rose to over 10,000 degrees. Even experts of the heavenly passage stage could not get close to the refining divine furnace. The level of the refining divine furnace exceeded Yi Qinghan's expectations. It could actually withstand such a high temperature. On the contrary, the temperature in the room was not that terrifying. Phew! It's finally melted. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. The most important step in refining was to melt the materials. There was a very high requirement for one's own true yuan and the refining furnace. The next step was to shape it. According to the shape he wanted, the formation within the heavy berserk blade, and other requirements, every step was extremely important. The scarlet soft gold could increase the flexibility of a 5th-grade combat weapon. It was the most important material for combat weapons of the 5th grade and above. Yi Qinghan put most of the scarlet soft gold into the refining furnace. The scarlet soft gold quickly melted under the high temperature and blended into the molten iron. Goo goo goo, the liquid cold iron was boiling. Several materials were blended together. Yi Qinghan used an ordinary iron trough to create the model of the heavy berserk blade, which was exactly the same as the 7-foot berserk blade. Jian Chenxue, come and help. For the first time, Yi Qinghan took the initiative to call Jian Chenxue, who was in the middle of cultivation. Jian Chenxue looked at the scarlet refining divine furnace and was frightened. Once the refining divine furnace exploded, the boiling liquid inside could kill them instantly. Gotcha! The temperature in the refining divine furnace rose to the peak. The mechanism at the bottom of the refining divine furnace was opened. The liquid quickly flowed into the stone trough of the 7-foot berserk blade. The stone was quickly melted and even started to burn. Pour all of your true essence into my body. Yi Qinghan slapped both of his palms on the stone trough of the 7-foot berserk blade. His true essence poured out and wrapped around the trough, imprisoning the liquefied molten iron. Hiss! His true essence was ignited by the high temperature and emitted white light. It was extremely terrifying. This was the most energy-consuming true essence. Without true essence as the capital, no matter how good the materials were, it was impossible to refine a high-grade combat weapon. Yi Qinghan felt that his true essence had fallen into a bottomless pit. His spirit qi was sucked dry, his skin was dry, and his qi and blood were burning. Bang! Jian Chenxue did not hesitate. He quickly pressed both of his palms on Yi Qinghan's back. The true essence in his body roared and flowed along Yi Qinghan's meridians into the stone trough. With Jian Chenxue's help, Yi Qinghan took the opportunity to swallow a large amount of blood ignition pills and true elemental pills, forming a circular array. The temperature in the stone trough was high and the molten iron was still boiling. However, the 7-foot berserk blade was finally formed. As long as it cooled down and was sharpened, it would become a real 5th-grade combat weapon. Outside the 9th heaven, the cumulus clouds rolled and thunder rumbled. It seemed to be looking for a combat weapon to cross the tribulation. The pressure enveloped Jiangning County and made it hard for people to breathe. Chapter 43. Outside the 9th heaven, the cumulus clouds were rolling and the thunder was rumbling. It seemed to be looking for a weapon to pass the tribulation. The pressure shrouded Jiangning County, making it hard for people to breathe. Is someone passing the tribulation? Only when someone from the Tao Master Realm to the Tao Master Realm will there be a tribulation. Is there anyone from the Tao Master Realm in Jiangning County? The Great Elder stepped out of the cave residence and looked at the tribulation in horror. The 7 feet heavy frenzied blade was at the bottom of the cliff 200 meters deep. Coupled with the height of the mountain, it was equivalent to 300 meters deep. The thunder tribulation could not locate it quickly and give the 7 feet heavy frenzied blade a chance to form. Yi Qinghan was sweating and bleeding from his 7 orifices. If Jian Chenxue was not supporting him at the back, his life essence might have been sucked away by the 7 feet heavy frenzied blade. Condense! Yi Qinghan shouted and forced out a drop of blood from his fingertip. It rushed into the mother tank and spun quickly. It spread throughout the entire mother tank and the temperature dropped crazily. Puff! Jian Chenxue spat out a mouthful of blood and her divine sense was scattered. Even with a large amount of vital elemental pills, she could not bear the crazy outpouring of vital essence. Let go. I should be able to do it. Yi Qinghan felt Jian Chenxue's vitality was disappearing and shouted in a low voice. Don't need. Jian Chenxue was very stubborn. Her legs were almost inserted into the mountain rocks and were twitching. Her devilish face was ferocious and had lost her peerless beauty. Gugugu, gugugu, gugugu. The burning molten iron bubbles were getting less and less, which meant that the temperature was dropping rapidly. The dark heavy frenzied blade began to show its ferocity and the consumption of vital essence increased instead of decreasing. Condense. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He spat out a mouthful of blood into the mother tank. Like a coolant, the 7 feet heavy frenzied blade solidified. Yi Qinghan's vital essence in his sea of qi was sucked dry. He trembled and was about to fall asleep, but he was awakened by Jian Chenxue's last bit of vital essence. The pure vital essence deep in his sea of qi erupted like the eye of the sea, waking him up quickly. Boom, boom, boom. The vital essence broke through the bottleneck and directly broke through the shackles of the middle stage of the blood-burning realm. The majestic vital essence in his limbs and bones and rushed into Jian Chenxue's body. Finally, the two's faced to recover some color. Huff, huff, huff. The sound of their heavy breathing intertwined, filling the entire room. The purple light lingered, setting off the inside of the smelting divine furnace room in a beautiful and magnificent way. The pressure of a 5th-grade combat weapon burst out and crushed Jian Chenxue. Without any chance to resist, Jian Chenxue crashed into the stone wall and fainted. Furthermore, it was an unsharpened 5th-grade combat weapon. Once it was sharpened, even Yi Qinghan himself might not be able to control it. The 7-foot heavy berserk saber completely solidified. Yi Qinghan restrained his aura and withdrew his quintessential essence. After rescuing Jian Chenxue, he waited for the heavy berserk saber to completely cool down. With the heavy berserk saber, although he could not use the heavy berserk saber technique for a long period of time, he could use it in an instant to save his life. With the heavy berserk saber, he did not need to worry about City Yunxiao. He could even destroy the Duke Manor once and for all. Is it done? Jian Chenxue looked at 7-foot maniac excitedly and nervously as he asked. Soon. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. He was mentally exhausted. Even if he had the soul of a grand martial saint, he could not withstand such a consumption of energy to forge a 5th-grade combat weapon in the blood ignition realm. The 7-foot heavy berserk saber was 7 feet long and weighed 500 kilograms. It gave off a domineering aura that made people revere it. At this moment, even if it was only a half-finished product hidden in the source groove, no one would dare to profane it. Once it was completed, its aura alone would be able to suppress a blood ignition realm expert. Thank you. If it were not for you, the materials would have been wasted and the forging of the heavy berserk saber would have been in vain. Yi Qinghan turned around and looked at Jian Chenxue. There was an additional emotion in his eyes. The simple emotion in his eyes caused Jian Chenxue's heart to be in a mess. Her little heart was beating rapidly, her face was as red as an apple, and her chest was heaving up and down. It's nothing. It's what I should do. Jian Chenxue quickly shook her head. The remaining materials are not enough to forge the 5th-grade Jade Maiden sword. I'll give you a 4th-grade Mother-Sun sword. It should be enough for you to use for a while. Yi Qinghan thought for a while and decided to properly nurture Jian Chenxue. She might be able to support the Sky Sword sect and allow him to leave more easily. After all, Yi Mingxi and the Wang family still had to survive here. Thank you. I still have some materials here. Do you need them? Jian Chenxue asked excitedly. What materials? Yi Qinghan looked at Jian Chenxue curiously. It seemed like she also wanted to forge a higher-grade spirit weapon. I don't know. Last year, I found a meteorite in the Blessed Paradise. It weighed about 12 kilograms and was very dense, so I kept it. As Jian Chenxue spoke, she took out a stone the size of a goose egg from her universe ring. It actually weighed more than 12 kilograms. It could be seen that its density was frightening. Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He took the initiative to reach out and take the stone. His eyes flickered with a bright light. This stone was intertwined with arrays and contained a terrifying power. Furthermore, he was more familiar with the origin of the meteorite. It was the saber core of the 7 feet heavy berserk saber. The saber core contained the essence of the heavy berserk saber. It had a large-scale spirit gathering array, an offensive array, and a defensive array. With it, this was the complete 7 feet heavy berserk saber. Yi Qinghan looked at the small hole 10 centimeters above the saber hilt and grinned. Was it heaven's will? This place is at least a few dozen light years away from Owl War Star. Even if I used the Star Domain Gate, I would need 3 to 5 months to reach here. I didn't expect the saber core of the 7 feet heavy berserk saber to reach here earlier than me. Yi Qinghan was extremely excited. He held the saber core and stared at Jian Chenxue. His burning gaze was extremely deep and could make people sink into it. This was the first time Jian Chenxue saw Yi Qinghan so excited. Her Tao heart that had remained calm for 1,000 years finally moved. She couldn't help but feel a little nervous. What's wrong? Jian Chenxue asked involuntarily. I want the stone. You can ask for anything. As long as it's within my means, I won't frown. Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Jian Chenxue didn't expect Yi Qinghan to value this stone so much. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, Senior brother Yi, take it if you need it. Can this stone's value surpass the ethereal flying immortal steps and the 4th grade mother-son sword? In the eyes of others, this stone might be worthless. However, in the hands of an almighty blacksmith, it was absolutely priceless. Its value was comparable to that of a kingdom. In Yi Qinghan's eyes, this saber core couldn't be bought even if the entire kingdom of Qingyang was sold. It's very expensive. It's so expensive that you can't imagine it. I will remember this favor and will definitely not treat you unfairly in the future. Yi Qinghan put away the saber core. He didn't place it in the 7 feet heavy berserk saber because he couldn't control the 7 feet heavy berserk saber at its peak. In the middle of the night, Yi Qinghan placed the master trough into ice water and quickly lowered its temperature. A large amount of water mist filled the entire room. After the temperature was lowered, the master trough shattered, leaving behind the pure 7 feet heavy berserk saber. Yi Qinghan held the saber hilt and released his aura. It was as if he had returned to Owl War Star. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the aura poured out and forcefully pushed Jian Chenxue 7 to 8 meters away. She fell in the passage and looked at Yi Qinghan in horror. She had never seen such a terrifying aura. It was as if he was a demon god, noble and inviolable. The dense killing intent was incompatible with his cold and arrogant aura. Aloofness, vicissitudes, arrogance, and murderous aura gathered in his body. His eyes were as intimidating as a dragon's eyes. When he glanced at Jian Chenxue, she felt as if she was in hell. What kind of look is this? Who is he? What did he go through? Jian Chenxue trembled and completely surrendered to Yi Qinghan's eyes. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and restrained his aura. He lowered his head and looked at the uneven heavy berserk saber. He took out the saber core and kept polishing the saber to a height of his body. The saber core was extremely sharp and indestructible. The protruding metal was constantly being ground away, revealing a cold, soul-stirring gleam. The crisp sound echoed in the back mountain. Jian Chenxue did not rest for the whole night, nor did she leave. She just stood aside and watched Yi Qinghan's repeated movements. Her heart beat along with his gestures. Because there was no saber core embedded in the heavy berserk saber, it was not a 5th grade combat weapon. The dark clouds outside the void dispersed and the pressure weakened. Everything returned to normal. The next morning, the 7 feet heavy berserk saber was finally repaired. Only the sharpening process was left. The completed heavy berserk saber was inserted into the smelting divine furnace and heated up again. When it softened slightly, he quickly pulled it out and used the sharpening hammer to crazily smash the blade. His coat was removed, and his bronze skin was covered in sweat. There was not a trace of fat on his body, but each of his muscles could explode with a terrifying power. Boom, boom, boom. Yi Qinghan waved the hammer to sharpen the blade. Every hammer strike was as heavy as 10,000 pounds, causing Jian Chenxue to panic. She looked at the man in front of her with infatuation. In the Sky Sword Sect's martial arts practice field, there were 10 arenas that were selecting the strongest of the younger generation. Yi Mingxi was the only one from the Broken Sword Peak participating, so she had no choice but to fight in the first round. The parrot raised its head and stood on Yi Mingxi's shoulder with a disdainful expression. It rushed up to the 7th arena, causing everyone to laugh crazily. Even Jian Ao laughed mockingly. Junior brother, Yi Mingxi is only 5 years old, and she is your granddaughter. Are you willing to send her to her death? As the saying goes, swords have no eyes. I can't guarantee her safety. Jian Ao said coldly. Wang Shufei's face turned red, and the corner of his mouth twitched a few times. He wanted Yi Mingxi to leave the arena, but Yi Qinghan's words lingered in his ears, lingering for a long time. Let go, and you will know whether you live or die. Strength is gained through fighting, not through training. That's right, no one could survive under the wings of an expert for a lifetime. Yi Mingxi had to learn to grow up on her own. Wang Shufei was old and the Wang clan could not cultivate. With Yi Qinghan's talent, it was impossible for him to stay in the Sky Sword sect. Yi Mingxi had to rely on herself. What are you laughing at? A group of frogs at the bottom of a well. Whoever can withstand 3 moves from me can laugh, or else shut up. Yi Mingxi's gaze was cold. She stood on the arena and looked down on everyone. She actually erupted with an inviolable might. The corner of Yu Shichue's mouth twitched. She wanted to laugh, but she could not. Back then she also looked down on Yi Qinghan, but what happened in the end? Who in the same realm in Jiangning County dared to compete with her? If Yi Qinghan was like this, then how weak could his sister be? Battle 5 Trash. The young master is defending the 7th arena. Anyone below the Blood Ignition realm can challenge him. If we can't defeat you in 3 moves, we will admit defeat. The parrot arrogantly said. Chapter 44. On the 7th stage, Yi Mingxi stood alone. For a moment, no one wanted to go on stage. First of all, they didn't know how strong Yi Mingxi was. No one was willing to take the risk. Moreover, Yi Mingxi was so young. If they lost, it wouldn't be a big deal. They would also have a bad reputation of bullying the weak. Except for the 7th arena, all the other arenas will draw lots. Let's begin. Jian Ao glanced around and said in a deep voice. For a moment, except for the 7th arena, the other arenas had already begun to fight. Yi Mingxi's young face looked very innocent. Her big watery eyes scanned the crowd, but no one was willing to go up. She could not help but be speechless. They are all scared to death. Sure enough, when the master comes out, who can compete? The parrot laughed wildly. Humph! They are looking down on me. Yi Mingxi said angrily. Looking down? This is too funny. A group of trash dares to look down on a genius? The parrot was astonished and asked with disdain. The crowd was angered by the parrot's disdainful gaze. Fuck! Get off the stage or I will roast you. Get off the stage, beast! Everyone clamored. If Yi Mingxi was not still on the stage, they would have started to throw stones. You dare to call this divine bird a beast? Little bastards, come up and fight with this divine bird master. If I don't beat you until your parents can't recognize you, this divine bird will commit suicide for an incense stick of time. The parrot was furious. Someone go up and kick it off the stage. Be careful not to hurt Yi Mingxi. Jian Ao impatiently scolded. You want to kick me off the stage? If you have the guts, come up and kick me. I will throw you into the 100,000 mountain range. The parrot was flustered and exasperated. It had never been looked down upon like this. It did not care how strong Jian Ao was and directly declared war. Jian Ao was trembling with anger. This bird was too despicable. Senior brother, you can't attack. This is a battle between the younger generation. The parrot is Mengxi's spirit pet. If you attack, Mengxi's strength will be greatly reduced. Wang Shufei looked at Jian Ao's flustered and exasperated appearance and quickly reminded, "Are you all dead? One of you, go up and beat it down." Jian Ao looked at the Sky Sword Peak disciples angrily and said coldly, "Sai, sect master, there's no need to lower yourself to the same level as a beast. Any disciple from my Weapon Sword Peak is enough." Qi Fantian shook his head and beckoned to a young disciple behind him. "Li Defu, go up and teach this bastard a lesson." "All right, master, don't worry. Lord Sect Leader, don't worry. I'll definitely satisfy you within 3 moves." That Li Defu was incomparably arrogant, thinking that dealing with the 5-year-old Yi Mengxi would be as easy as crushing an ant. Yi Mengxi saw that there was finally someone on stage, and it was even a rookie at the 6th level of body refinement. She couldn't help grinning. According to the agreed plan, we'll be invincible in the world and show those scumbags the power of our divine harmony duo. The parrot rubbed its palms together and said loudly, "Ah, little girl, I advise you to take the initiative to go down. Otherwise, don't blame my fist." Li Defu was so arrogant that he waved his fists as soon as he got on the stage. Well, the parrot's mouth spat out flames. Li Defu didn't even finish his sentence before he was instantly engulfed in flames. His hair, eyelashes, and eyebrows were all burned away. His face was as black as charcoal and his clothes were also ignited. He couldn't help but roar. Ah, heaven origin mountain shattering style. Yi Mengxi saw that Li Defu was going crazy and didn't defend. The misty flying immortal steps made her figure disappear. Her fist hit Li Defu's chest. True essence roared and pierced through his body, cutting off the connection between Li Defu's divine sense and Qi. Pa. The parrot clawed and scratched randomly, all of its attacks aimed at Li Defu's head. It didn't seem strong at all. Of course, the ability to spit fire scared many people. Damn, is this a parrot? How can it spit fire? Many disciples were stunned. Seeing the miserable Li Defu without any resistance and letting Yi Mengxi and the parrot rain attacks on his body, they couldn't help but feel a chill. "I'll beat you to death, you idiot. You dare to look down on this divine bird, I'll let you be cocky." Yi Mengxi's fist landed on Li Defu's eyes. Li Defu's eyes were swollen beyond recognition. The parrot was even more exaggerated. It directly tore apart his clothes and made him look like a beggar. There were even some places that were burning. "I admit defeat. I beg you, please don't fight." Li Defu rolled on the stage, holding his head as he begged for mercy. "You won't fight if you admit defeat? Hurry up and say you're trash." The parrot's sharp claws pierced into Li Defu's thighs and tore at them with all its might. Li Defu was in so much pain that he hovered between life and death. Yi Mengxi wasn't willing to be outdone. Her small fists were filled with sharp true essence as they pierced into Li Defu's flesh. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. The rules of the Heavenly Sword Sect tournament were that if one side admitted defeat, the other could not attack again. This was clearly against the rules. But, could you talk about the rules with a 5-year-old child and a lowly bird? Qi Fantian was also enraged. This was a naked humiliation. But the parrot and Yi Mengxi didn't listen to him at all. Their sharp claws left behind shocking scars on Li Defu's body. "I'm trash. I beg you, please don't fight anymore." Li Defu cried bitterly, not caring about his face as he begged for mercy. "All right. If one side admits defeat, the other side can't attack again. Junior brother Wang, did you not tell her the rules?" Jian Ao's face was ugly as he asked coldly. Wang Shufei smiled happily and quickly said, "I'm sorry, this old man forgot about this. Mengxi, it's good that you've won. Don't fight anymore." Although he said he was sorry, Wang Shufei's face was filled with pride. He could finally hold his head up high. How could he be embarrassed? Hearing Wang Shufei's shout, Yi Mengxi reluctantly retracted her fist and kicked Li Defu off the stage. "This is so annoying. Can't you send up a useless rookie for me to abuse?" The parrot clamored. Everyone from Weapon Sword Peak was enraged. Was this a declaration of war? Was this a fight to the death? Xian Fei, you go. Jian Ao coldly said. Xian Fei's ankle had been broken by Yi Qinghan a few days ago. He had to use a high-quality spirit pill to heal it. Now his cultivation had broken through to the peak of the 8th layer of body refinement. It was very likely that he would enter the top 30 of the Sky Sword sect. Xian Fei looked at Yi Mengshi with a vicious expression. It was as if he was looking at Yi Qinghan. In his heart, he thought, Yi Qinghan, I will return the pain you gave me to your sister. This old man will say it again. If one side admits defeat, the other side can't attack again. Otherwise, don't blame this old man for being ruthless. Jian Ao swept his gaze over the crowd and coldly reprimanded. Jian Ao's words seemed to be directed at everyone, but it was actually a warning to Yi Mengshi because no one dared to break the rules. However, Yi Mengshi curled her lips and didn't take it to heart. Beg for mercy? There are plenty of ways to make you unable to open your mouth. Xian Fei's aura erupted. He fiercely stomped on the ground and jumped 6 to 7 meters into the air. He did a beautiful somersault and landed on the 5-meter-high stage. He was incomparably confident and drew cheers from the crowd. Yi Mengshi and the parrot looked at each other and smiled. This fellow Xian Fei had left a deep impression on them. Can I attack now? Yi Mengshi asked with a smile. Humph. Xian Fei thought back to last time when Yi Qinghan had asked him the same question. His old face couldn't help turning red. He was afraid that Yi Mengshi's speed was also fast. He unsheathed his sword and charged at Yi Mengshi. Sword chi filled the entire stage. Yi Mengshi's clothes fluttered from the sword chi. Seeing Xian Fei's sneak attack, she couldn't help sneering. She twisted her foot and charged from the left. The parrot charged from the right. Xian Fei's speed was fast enough, but he wasn't as fast as Yi Mengshi and the parrot. Xian Fei pounced at empty air. Seeing Yi Mengshi and the parrot disappear, he quickly shot out sword chi in all directions. He was afraid of a sneak attack. Void-shattering form. I'll shoot. One person and one bird were extremely fast. After dodging Xian Fei's sword chi, a sharp true energy sword-like sword slashed towards Xian Fei's throat. Before Xian Fei could react, he saw the parrot's mouth of fire flying towards him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Ding! Xian Fei didn't train much in the basic sword skills. The sword shadow covered his face and protected his chest, blocking the fire a meter away. With a twist of his body, he dodged Yi Mengshi's attack with difficulty. However, he lost control of his body. Void-shattering form. Yi Mengshi seized the opportunity. From 5 to 6 meters away, she turned her fist into a palm and smashed upwards. Bam! True essence turned into a tender palm and struck Xian Fei's jaw, almost shattering his teeth. Xian Fei's eyes rolled back and he almost fainted. However, his reaction was fast enough. He quickly stabbed his sword towards Yi Mengshi, wanting to defeat her and buy himself some time. Downward form. Yi Mengshi lowered her wrist and used her true energy to smash towards Xian Fei's throat. However, her body retreated a few meters and dodged Xian Fei's attack. Puff! The true energy palm hit his throat, causing Xian Fei's consciousness to be in a mess. He coughed up blood and retreated. He couldn't even speak. Swish! The ethereal flying steps was as fast as lightning. It turned into a white light and spun around the arena. There were afterimages everywhere. Little Mengshi had completely established her power. She went behind Xian Fei and struck out with Yi Family Fist. She was like a ferocious tiger that was released from its cage. True energy poured out. Bam! The fist hit his back. Xian Fei staggered and lost his balance. However, little Mengshi stepped on his leg and he immediately knelt on the ground. The changes in Yi Mengshi's moves were as smooth as flowing water. It was incomparably natural and unrestrained, causing everyone to be dumbstruck. Ancient tree roots. The punch was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. It was powerful and forceful, forcing Xian Fei to kneel on the ground. Dragon fighting in the wild. Her tender body almost flew into the air. A back kick hit Xian Fei's head and sent him flying a few meters. Before he fell off the arena, she changed her move again. Heaven and earth shattering. Yi Mengxi's body bounced up and fell from the sky. Her small fist almost created sparks. If this punch hit Xian Fei's body, it would be enough to break through his veins. "Little master, you can do it." The parrot swayed its fat body in the arena. It looked very funny. However, everyone was too lazy to look at it. They were all stunned by Yi Mengxi's strength. Xian Fei's eyes were blurry. He wanted to speak, but his throat was blocked by a stream of qi. He could only shout hoarsely and couldn't say the word surrender. However, Yi Mengxi's fist had already fallen. He could only struggle hard. He raised his arms to protect his face and chest, praying that he could block this punch. Kacha. There was a loud sound followed by the crisp sound of broken bones. Xian Fei screamed and curled up. His arms drooped. He was completely crippled by this punch. Chapter 45. The martial arts arena was completely silent. Even the other arenas were quiet. No one dared to break the silence. Jian Ao's body trembled as if the punch had landed on his body. He could not help but think, if Yi Mengxi is like this, can Yi Qinghan really only block 50% of my power? Wang Shufei was extremely excited. He was even more excited than when he broke through to the bitter sea stage. Yu Shixia looked at Yi Mengxi as if she had found a treasure. Her eyes were filled with thoughts of nurturing her. He didn't admit defeat. "Can I continue?" Yi Mengxi pointed at the curled-up Xian Fei and asked innocently. "Of course. This guy didn't admit defeat. Let's go." The parrot was not afraid of offending people. It rushed up and scratched randomly. Xian Fei's tears flowed, but he could not shout. His eyes were almost popping out. Forget it, forget it. Forgive him." Wang Shufei hurriedly stood up and acted like a good person, trying to dissuade him. Xian Fei was after all a member of the Heavenly Sword Peak. How could they humiliate him and offend Jian Ao? Yi Mengxi heard her grandfather's words and quickly grabbed the parrot's wings and retreated to the side. She waited for the third battle as if she did not need to rest. "Senior brother Wang, can you let Mengxi join the Jade Maiden Peak? She is after all a little girl. I'm afraid you can't train her." Yu Shixia rubbed her hands and said embarrassedly, "Junior sister you are wrong. My Broken Sword Peak only has one disciple. How can I give her to you? Moreover, she is my granddaughter." Wang Shufei said unhappily, "Doesn't the Broken Sword Peak still have Yi Qinghan? Do you see that I want to take in Yi Qinghan? Good senior brother, this is the first time junior sister begs you. Just agree." Yu Shixia pleaded. "No. If you can pull Yi Qinghan to the Jade Maiden Peak, I will be very happy." Wang Shufei said without hesitation. "Don't regret it. I will marry Chenxue to him. I don't believe he won't join the Jade Maiden Peak." Yu Shixia said angrily. "Even if you marry him, he won't join Jade Maiden Peak. Don't you think that Jiangning County is too small for him?" Wang Shufei said indifferently. Yu Shixia was flustered and exasperated. Her face was flushed red as she pointed at Wang Shufei. She wanted nothing more than to punch him out of the Sky Sword sect. "You disrespectful old bastard. You call me senior brother in vain." Yu Shixia stomped her foot and turned her head to sit down, unwilling to acknowledge Wang Shufei. Congratulations junior brother Wang for obtaining 2 treasures. Yi Qinghan is invincible among his peers. Yi Mengxi is only 5 years old, yet she defeated Xian Fei in 3 moves. Her potential is fearsome. Everyone cupped their fists and took the initiative to strike up a conversation. If it was in the past, Wang Shufei wouldn't even dare to dream about it. Wang Shufei was so excited that his face turned red. He felt that he had become 10 years younger. The more he looked at Yi Mengxi, the more satisfied he was. The competition continued, and the atmosphere in the martial arts field reached a climax. No one wanted to be defeated by a 5-year-old child. In the afternoon, the competition reached its peak. Yi Mengxi was invincible among those below the blood ignition realm, causing everyone to be shocked. The Sky Sword sect cheered for the first time, because she represented the Sky Sword sect. In the future, the Sky Sword sect would definitely be glorious because of her. Just as everyone's gaze was fixed on the martial arts field, a white figure snuck into the sky sword sect along the white snow. It was so silent that even Jian Ao did not discover it. Covered by the ghost Fong mask, his aura was restrained. He quickly snuck into the back mountain of the weapon sword peak without alerting any of the disciples guarding the mountain. As expected of the Blood Evil Organization's assassin hallmaster in Gaoyang County, Magu, anyone who saw him would feel as if they had seen a ghost. Seeing a ghost meant death. Seeing Mague also meant death. 3 years ago, he was already an expert at the peak of the Blood Ignition realm, half a step into the Bitter Sea realm, and had killed a Bitter Sea realm existence. 3 years later, no one knew how terrifying he was. A foot-long blood-red dagger appeared in his hand. He quickly approached below, a faint killing intent restrained. He was like a stone without spiritual energy, silent like a ghost. Inside the cave, there were still a few disciples patrolling. They felt a figure flash, and all of them fell into a pool of blood. Their throats were pierced, and they did not make the slightest sound. They were completely dead. Jian Chenxue was still guarding outside the door. She did not discover that the ghost was less than 30 meters away from her. Death had come, and she had 1 foot in hell. In the room, Yi Qinghan had just finished refining the 4th-grade Mother-Sun sword, and was in the midst of closing his eyes to cultivate and recover his vital energy. Suddenly, he opened his eyes, stretched out his hand to grab the hilt of the violent sword that was inserted into the ground, and said hoarsely, "Jian Chenxue, come in." "Oh, is there anything I can help with?" Jian Chenxue hurriedly pushed open the stone door and asked. "Oh." Yi Qinghan threw the Mother-Sun sword to her, pulled out his sword, and motioned for her to retreat to the corner of the wall. Jian Chenxue grasped the 4th-grade Mother-Sun sword, her expression changing. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was like an attacking azure dragon that wanted to destroy the heavens and earth, she knew that things were not going well. She hurriedly retreated to the opposite side of the refining divine furnace. Yi Qinghan had his back to the door, swallowing a large amount of vital energy pills and blood ignition pills to replenish the consumption of the past few days. His consciousness was closely watching the passage. The horse was like a ghost hanging in the air, constantly approaching the room of the refining divine furnace. Even the Bitter Sea stage could not fly. She really did not know how he did it. The stone door was half closed. The horse was like a ghost closing in step by step. The dagger was as sinister as blood and bone, but its aura was so restrained that it could not be discovered. Even if it was close at hand, Jian Chenxue, under Yi Qinghan's warning, did not discover his arrival. Yi Qinghan restrained his aura and condensed his vital essence. He secretly inserted the saber core into the pit of the heavy manic saber. Once embedded, the grade 5 heavy manic saber would be powerful enough to destroy mountains and rivers. Xiao the horse was like a ghost, like a sword, piercing towards Yi Qinghan. Killing intent engulfed the surroundings, and the temperature of the underground rapidly dropped, as if hell had descended. When Yi Qinghan inserted the core of the blade into the violent sword, his aura suddenly erupting. With a slash of the blade, the sky sword sect trembled, and the arena of the martial arts field instantly collapsed. Boom boom boom. Cumulus clouds covered the sky, instantly covering the entire small city of Jiangning County. Lightning destroyed everything in its path, constantly striking the back mountain of the weapon sword peak. The cliff was split apart, constantly sinking. What with a crisp explosion, a terrifying blade aura rushed out from the weapon sword peak's weapon refining cliff, cutting off the momentum of the 8 desolates, rushing beyond the 9 heavens, directly approaching the cumulus clouds. A shrill scream resounded through the clouds, breaking the dead silence of the sky sword sect. Then, the back mountain of the weapon sword peak was split apart, and a white figure turned into lightning, leaping into the sky. Extreme Tao killing god style. Die for me. The 2 different voices shocked everyone. One was a murderous aura, the other was an aura that could destroy the heavens. At the same time, it rushed into the sky, suppressing the momentum of the heavens. Shuada using the extreme Tao dragon steps to the limit, he leaped into the sky. Despite being in the blood ignition realm, he actually flew into the sky, rushing into everyone's line of sight. Jian Ao immediately shivered. Shwa, the sharp blade aura pierced through the air, instantly piercing through Marugi. Marugi's reaction was fast enough. Using all the true yuan in his body, he instantly flew up, dodging Yi Qinghan's fatal attack. However, his legs were not able to dodge, and were pierced through by the violent blade aura. Marugi, however, was oblivious to it. He slammed his palm on the opposite mountain, using the force of the chi to rush into the training ground. He hoped to use the large number of people in the training ground to suppress Yi Qinghan's momentum. Disperse! Disperse quickly! Who is he? Why is he at the back mountain of the weapon sword peak? He has angered Yi Qinghan. Damn, is Yi Qinghan a god? The training ground was in a mess. The Grand Elder came out of the mountain, protecting everyone. He looked at the two people rushing in from the sky with a shocked expression and gasped. Marugi! Branch leader of the Blood Fiends. The Grand Elder's eyes were like torches. He glanced at Marugi and realized that both of his legs had been cut off, but he did not feel anything. He could not help but be frightened. How sharp was the blade in Yi Qinghan's hand? How terrifying was the blade aura? Yi Qinghan directly threw out his violent blade. The blade, at least 5 feet long, pierced through Marugi's body, nailing him to the training ground. Boom! The violent blade penetrated more than 2 meters deep into the training ground. Marugi's body was stuck at the bottom of the crack. His legs were separated from his knees, and he did not even struggle before he died. Kakat at the training ground was split into 2. There were countless small cracks, and it was a shocking sight. Yi Qinghan was in midair. He felt that his true yuan was like a torrential river, and the true yuan in his chi si was instantly exhausted. He was unable to support his body and fell from the sky. While still in midair, Yi Qinghan hurriedly swallowed a large amount of true yuan pills and blood ignition pills. Finally, he was able to stabilize his body and land steadily on the training ground. There was not the slightest sound on the training ground. Everyone's breathing could be heard clearly. No one dared to approach Yi Qinghan. His cold eyes could almost freeze the chi and blood of the blood ignition realm. Even Chi Fan Tian and other experts who had not broken through to the bitter sea stage felt that they were mortals 10 meters away from Yi Qinghan. Their chi and blood were sealed, and their strength could not be increased. Yi Qinghan swept a glance over the crowd and fixed his gaze on Chi Fan Tian. Killing intent flashed across his eyes. Chi Fan Tian felt like he was being stared at by a demon. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Meng Shi, go get a jar of purple light wine. Yi Qinghan's voice was hoarse. His soul was exhausted to the extreme, and he was unable to move. He held the hilt of the violent strike with one hand, stabilizing his body, and put the blade core into his Qiankuan ring with the other. The 5th grade aura of the violent strike disappeared, and the cumulus clouds in the sky quickly dispersed. At this moment, only the violent strike could give him a sense of security. Everyone knew that Yi Qinghan did not have any true yuan, so they did not dare to act rashly. Yi Meng Shi used Misty Flying Immortal, quickly rushed to the Broken Sword Peak, and returned to the training ground with the wine jar. Yi Qinghan half knelt on the ground, allowing Yi Meng Shi to lift the wine jar and pour the purple light wine into his mouth. Majestic spiritual chi ran through his body, turning into true yuan to temper his body. Most of his true yuan gathered in his chi si, quickly recovering his strength. Wang Shufei stood at Yi Qinghan's side, looking at Chi Fan Tian cautiously. Yi Qinghan's previous glance was too obvious. Yi Qinghan was like a bottomless pit, desperately sucking in the entire jar of wine. His face gradually turned red, and he took the initiative to take the wine jar and pour it into his mouth. At this time, his chi si had been opened to the limit, and true yuan pills were no longer of much use to Yi Qinghan. He had to rely on the purple light wine, and his need for spirit crystals was becoming more and more urgent. Chapter 46. The Knight of the Sky Sword sect had never been so quiet. The people on the martial arts practice field dispersed, leaving only the 8 peak masters and elders. The atmosphere was so oppressive that it was hard to breathe. Yi Qinghan calmly looked at Chi Fan Tian, and did not accuse him of betraying the Sky Sword sect and himself. Instead, he pulled out the heavy berserk blade and said indifferently, Chief Enon, what grade do you think this heavy berserk blade is comparable to? 4th grade? No, 5th grade. Chi Fantian's face was deathly pale. He was not angry because Yi Qinghan had called him by his name, but was scared witless. Do you still remember our bet? Yi Qinghan asked again. Remember, if you agree to a bet, you must accept your loss. I've saved up a lifetime's worth of spirit crystals, a total of 35 pieces. Together with Lien Chen's 150,000 taels of gold, it should be enough. I've offended you in the past 2 days, please forgive me, Sir Yi. Chi Fantian took out all the spirit crystals from his universe ring and respectfully presented them to Yi Qinghan. The spirit crystals were full of spirit chi, and were solid spirit bodies. A palm-sized spirit crystal could instantly restore the battle strength of an expert at the 7th star of the Bitter Sea stage or above, and could also explode an expert at the early stage of the Bitter Sea stage. Yi Qinghan took the spirit crystal and probed it with his divine sense. He found that there were many impurities, and it could only be regarded as the lowest grade of the lowest grade, but it was suitable for his current realm. Chi Fantian's attitude of admitting his guilt was very good, so Yi Qinghan had no excuse to kill him. He also did not want to waste his strength to kill a trash. I will only give you this one chance. I never find an excuse to kill people, nor do I need evidence. If you make me want to kill you again, you will end up like him. Do you understand? Yi Qinghan said coldly, pointing at Ma Rugi's body. I am ignorant, I will never do it again. Chi Fantian bent his body 90 degrees, not daring to look directly at him. If Yi Qinghan had been assassinated by Ma Rugi, Chi Fantian would definitely have a different appearance. Now that Ma Rugi had been forcefully killed, he could only bow and scrape. Yi Qinghan glanced at the crowd and said in a low voice, I am not a member of the Sky Sword sect, and I will not be one in the future. However, I will add fuel to the fire for the glory of the Sky Sword sect. From tomorrow onwards, Jiangning County will no longer have a county king's mansion, only the Sky Sword sect. What? There was no Duke Manor, only the Heaven Sword sect? What is he trying to do? Jian Ao's expression changed. The county king's mansion was backed by the kingdom of Azure Sun. Jian Ao, listen to me. If someone at the same cultivation level defeats Meng Shi and injures her, I definitely won't interfere. But if someone secretly attacks her and you don't dare to protect them, I'll raise your Sky Sword sect to the ground. Yi Qinghan said ruthlessly. He transmitted the secret technique of the extreme Dao Divine Dragon Steps into Yi Mengshi's Sea of Consciousness. At the same time, he added a restriction. If Yi Mengshi hadn't reached the peak of the Blood Ignition realm, she definitely wouldn't be able to use such a terrifying secret technique. Sha, Yi Qinghan pulled out his heavy berserk saber, swept up Maru Gray's corpse, and stepped out of the Heaven Sword sect. When the parrot saw Yi Qinghan leave, it patted little Meng Shi's shoulder and said in a deep voice, Little mistress, work hard on your cultivation. We will meet again. Yi Qinghan left resolutely. He didn't even turn back to look at Yi Mengshi, causing her eyes to fill with pearl-like tears. Yi Qinghan was leaving. From the moment Wang Shufei saw him, he was certain that such a terrifying monster wouldn't stay in Jiangning County for long. Yi Qinghan didn't even bid farewell to Wang Shi. He downed a jar of wine and didn't look back. Otherwise, it would only be sad. A whirlwind blew, and the bitter cold winter caused snow to fall like goose feathers. Yi Qinghan walked step by step towards Jiangning County City. In the Jiangning County King's mansion, Sidu Yunshao had a complacent expression as he waited for the good news. However, he didn't expect that the news he received would make him go completely crazy. Report. Sky Sword sect has important news. A black-clothed man hurriedly rushed into the king's mansion, forgetting the most basic rules. Haha, is Yi Qinghan dead? Situ Yunshao was in a good mood and didn't blame the black-clothed man. Yi Qinghan didn't die. Blood fiend Horse Rugi was nailed to death in the martial arts arena. The black-clothed man knelt on the ground, not even daring to raise his head. But Situ Yunshao smashed the table with his palm. His expression changed greatly as he shouted in a low voice, How is this possible? Did that old thing from Sky Sword sect make a move? No, it was Yi Qinghan who killed Horse Rugi with a single slash. Even the cliff of Weapon Sword Peak was split in half. The black-clothed man crawled on the ground in fear. His entire body trembled because Situ Yunxiao's killing intent had enveloped the entire room. Are you kidding me? How old is Yi Qinghan? He killed Horse Rugi with a single slash? Why don't you say that he split the sky with a single slash? Situ Yunxiao roared as he grabbed the black-clothed man by the collar and lifted him up. His killing intent was everywhere as he coldly shouted, "Who sent this news?" It was a secret sentry from Sky Sword Sect. He said that Yi Qinghan already took Horse Rugi's corpse and left Sky Sword Sect. Before he left, he said, the black-clothed man trembled and didn't dare to continue speaking. What did he say? If you have anything to say, then say it. If you dare to stutter, I'll kill you, Situ Yunxiao coldly shouted as he flung the black-clothed man away. He said that from tomorrow onwards, Jiangning County will no longer have a king's mansion. There will only be Sky Sword Sect. Boom! The black-clothed man's head was smashed by Situ Yunxiao and he was kicked out of the hall. Hee, you want to raise my king's mansion to the ground? I'll wait for you. Situ Yunxiao had a cruel smile as he stared at the snowy night sky. Adorned with white snow, the small city's night scenery was magnificent as if it was a fairyland. Outside the city, a vigorous young man held a golden glory token and quickly entered Jiangning County without encountering any obstructions. Sha sha sha. His footsteps on the snow emitted a horrifying sound. The footprints were quickly sealed by the snow and the figure gradually disappeared. Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Qin Zheng and Sun Fizi were sitting in a luxurious hall surrounded by ancient objects that emitted a desolate aura. Jiangning County is going to be overturned. Qin Zheng's face was heavy. He didn't know if Yi Qinghan's arrival was a blessing or a curse. How did he do it? He killed Horse Rugi with a single slash. Even in the entire kingdom of Green Sun, there might not be anyone who could do it. Sun Fizi exclaimed. A month ago, Yi Qinghan was still a trash who could beat up anyone who wanted to. A month later, he killed a branch leader of Blood Fiend. Has the reincarnation of a supreme expert suddenly become enlightened? Qin Zheng whispered. Ta-ta! A series of noises came from outside and attracted the attention of Qin Zheng and Sun Fizi. They rushed out of the hall and arrived at the front yard of Spirit Treasures Pavilion. They saw a group of servants and guards looking at the newcomers in horror. It was Yi Qinghan. He was carrying a 7-foot-long saber with a corpse hanging from it. Who else could it be but Horse Rugi? Mystery? Qin Zheng couldn't help but ask in shock when he saw Horse Rugi's legs were chopped off and his corpse hanging from the saber. Who is the strongest person in Blood Fiend? Yi Qinghan stood proudly in the front yard and asked coldly. Blood Fiend's leader is a Grotto Heaven Realm expert who is comparable to the Pavilion Master of Spirit Treasures Pavilion. It is a famous assassin organization on Owl Falling Star and a 4th-grade force. They are also one of the strongest forces on Owl Falling Star. No one dares to offend them, Qin Zheng said in a deep voice. Grotto Heaven Realm was divided into 4 subrealms: Sky Treading, Sky Dancing, Hidden Dragon, and Sky Hooking. Sky Treading naturally referred to flight. If one wanted to break free from the shackles of the earth, one must be in Grotto Heaven Realm. Of course, Yi Qinghan could use extreme divine dragon steps to fly for a short period of time. He could maintain it for less than 5 breaths and it would exhaust all of his Zhen Yuan. Sky dancing meant that one could completely control flight and fly in the air for a long time like a bird. It seemed no different from Sky Treading Realm, but the difference was as great as heaven and earth. The difference in battle strength was 100 times greater. At Hidden Dragon Realm, one could fly in the sky and dive into the ground. One's body would be like a dragon and one's strength would be able to destroy the world. At Sky Hooking Realm, one could truly see through the mysteries of heaven and earth and borrow the power of heaven and earth to destroy a small star without a problem. Although Yi Qinghan was confident, he wasn't so confident that he could kill someone at the Grotto Heaven Realm as a Blood Ignition Realm cultivator. Even an ordinary Ascendant Realm cultivator would be defeated as long as the battle lasted for a few breaths. Make a deal with me, Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. He had to make some preparations for Yi Mingxi's safety. What kind of deal? Qin Zheng's eyes lit up. If Yi Qinghan was really the reincarnation of a great expert, then anything he threw out would be comparable to a supreme treasure. Help me bring Mingxi and my mother to Lingbao Pavilion's headquarters and have Jian Chenxue, the head disciple of Jade Maiden Peak, guard them. You have to ensure their safety. As for the conditions, I will give you a complete set of 4th-grade alchemy techniques, including the recipes for Bone Replenishing Pill, Divinity Breaking Pill, Hidden Dragon Pill, and other 4th-grade alchemy techniques. This is for Lingbao Pavilion's headquarters. As for you, I will give you a peerless 4th-grade offensive secret technique, 9 consecutive arrow technique, Yi Qinghan said calmly. Qin Zheng's eyes almost popped out. 4th-grade alchemy techniques. 4th-grade 9 consecutive arrow technique. There was no other secret technique on Owl Fall Planet that could be compared to them. This was more than just a supreme treasure. If you accept this deal, your Lingbao Pavilion will be tied to my back. If you can't protect the 3 of them, I will raise your Lingbao Pavilion to the ground. Yi Qinghan's killing intent burst out as he stared at Qin Zheng. The determination in his eyes could shatter the heavens and split the earth. Lingbao Pavilion was an organization that prioritized benefits above all else. As long as there were benefits, they would dare to risk their lives. This was also the reason why Yi Qinghan chose them. In addition, Lingbao Pavilion had the right to speak on Owl Fall Planet. No one would offend the powerful Lingbao Pavilion for the sake of a few women's lives. Qin Zheng's body shook visibly. He could feel that Yi Qinghan could really do it. He threw out a 4th-grade secret technique without even blinking. This meant that he didn't care at all. I agree. In addition, I will stay by their side and protect them. As long as I don't die, no one will be able to hurt them. Qin Zheng thought of the 9 consecutive arrow technique and was unable to contain his excitement. He couldn't wait to get his hands on the technique. Sun Fizi looked at Yi Qinghan. His turbid eyes were filled with excitement and happiness. In his eyes, Yi Qinghan was still a child that he had saved and protected. Mr. Sun, you don't have to stay in Jiangning County. I will give you the recipe for the purple light wine and the secret technique of the 8-sex heavenly dragon palm. Consider it as repayment for protecting me a while ago. Yi Qinghan looked at Sun Fizi with some emotions in his heart. He pointed his middle finger at Sun Fizi's forehead and a large amount of memories rushed into Sun Fizi's mind, including the recipe for the wine, the pill, the archery, and the 8-sex heavenly dragon palm. The benefits he received were far greater than Lingbao Pavilion. The 8-sex heavenly dragon palm was considered a famous palm technique in the entire boundless universe. It was extremely powerful. Thank you, Qinghan. This old man's life was saved by you. If it wasn't for the purple light wine, I might have reached the end of my lifespan. Sun Fizi said respectfully. I, Yi Qinghan, do not owe anyone anything. Yi Qinghan said calmly. He then turned to Qin Zheng and said, from tomorrow onwards, the Jiangning County Prince's mansion will no longer exist. When you return to the Qingyang Kingdom, tell them that I was the one who razed the prince's mansion to the ground. If they have any grudges, they will have to find me for revenge. After saying this, Yi Qinghan took Marugi's corpse and left Lingbao Pavilion, leaving behind a dumbfounded Qin Zheng and Sun Fizi. Chapter 47. Snow swirled in the air, wanting to drown the entire world. Wood at the wind howled and the snow froze in the air, as sharp as a blade. When it came into contact with Yi Qinghan's hair, it automatically dissipated. Rustle rustled as the proud and aloof figure took firm steps towards the Duke Manor in the center of Jiangning County. An austere aura filled the air, enveloping the heavens and earth. Jiangning County was deathly silent. Other than the sound of the wind, there were no other sounds. The lights of tens of thousands of homes were extinguished, as if they had felt the arrival of death. Everything was deathly silent. Even the dogs were unwilling to move. Some people opened their windows a little, peeking at the gradually disappearing figure. Trembling, they hurriedly shrank back into their rooms. Outside the Duke Manor, hundreds of city guards and the Jiangning army tightly surrounded the gate. A large number of archers gathered, ignoring the heavy snow, gazing into the distance. Sidu Yunxiao's face was indifferent. Looking at the 10-mile-long street, a figure gradually appeared in his eyes, the corners of his mouth curling into a sneer. There is a path to heaven but you don't want to walk, there is no door to hell but you charge in. Today I want to see how you will kill a bitter sea stage expert. Sidu Yunxiao was arrogant. He was only 50 years old and had already reached the 1 star of the bitter sea stage. In the entire Azure Sun Kingdom, he could be considered a decent genius. How could he be scared by a 16 or 17-year-old blood ignition stage rookie? 300 meters, 200 meters. The seemingly slow pace was in fact extremely fast, as if he was teleporting. This caused Sidu Yunxiao's pupils to shrink. The hundreds of city guards and soldiers of the Jiangning army constantly retreated. Looking at Yi Qinghan, they felt as if their souls were about to be sealed in ice. 100 meters, 50 meters. Halt! The commander of the city guards personally stepped forward, shouting. Rustle, rustle, rustle. His response was not to stop, but to increase his speed. Yi Qinghan swung his blade, throwing Marugi's corpse in front of the Duke Manor. His body was like an arrow, shattering the earth. White snow rushed in reverse, a cold light flashed, and blade chi swept in all directions. Shoot! Shoot for me! Xiu xiu xiu. Thousands of arrows were shot, cutting through the air. Like shooting stars, they instantly surrounded Yi Qinghan. Open! Yi Qinghan's blade, directly cutting the stone slab outside of the Duke Manor. He raised his long blade, the earth, and the sharp arrows. Boom! The stone slab collided with the sharp arrow and exploded. Along with the heavy snow, it rushed madly towards the Duke's manor. Swish! Yi Qinghan crushed the ground with his foot and charged straight at the army. Wherever his long saber went, it was unstoppable. The saber radiance was unstoppable and unstoppable. Large numbers of corpses were cut in half at the waist. Demon! You will die a horrible death. The blood-curdling screams broke the deathly stillness of Jiangning County. The stench of blood permeated the air and was carried by the fierce winds to a radius of several kilometers. Large patches of blood stained the ground red and soon froze into ice. The blood-colored ice was a ghastly sight, and the blood-colored snow was even more chilling. The basic blade technique was executed without any flaws. Even if the 250-gene heavy wild blade didn't have a blade core, it could still smash a blood ignition realm cultivator to death, not to mention a group of soldiers around the 8th body refinement layer. Those who don't retreat will die. A furious roar like spring thunder struck down from the 9th heaven, deafening to the point of collapse. The city defense army felt a chill run down their spines. They were not proper soldiers. They were only there to protect the daily peace of Jiangning County. As for the Jiangning Legion, they were just a second-rate legion. How could they withstand such a massacre? Whoever dares to retreat will die. Kill him for me. Sidu Yunxiao suddenly stood up. The 10 black-clothed men behind him followed closely to protect him, their killing intent filling the air. Attack for me. Today we will exhaust him to death. I don't believe that a blood ignition realm cultivator can store that much true essence. Sidu Yunxiao's heart turned cold. Facing such a powerful attack, he did not have the confidence to kill Yi Qinghan. He could only hope to use the lives of his men to stop Yi Qinghan's temporary madness. As long as his edge was extinguished, there was nothing to fear. The 10 black-clothed men also charged into the fray, but Yi Qinghan's momentum was unstoppable. With a single step, he killed 10 people. With a single slash of his blade, whether it was their weapons or their bodies, everything was cut in half. Kacha! The crisp sound of broken bones and broken swords penetrated the eardrums of everyone. Yi Qinghan was getting closer and closer to the king's palace. His eyes were cold and his lips curled into a cold smile. You want to rely on these mortals to stop my footsteps and waste my strength? What a fool's dream! Yi Qinghan roared. His aura erupted, and with a sweep of his blade, there was no one within 10 meters of him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! In a short 10 breaths of time, Less than half of the 400 city guards and the Jiangning army remained. Yi Qinghan's breathing did not even change. City Yunxiao, do you want to come with me, or do you want me to raise your king's palace to the ground and take your head with me? Yi Qinghan held the blade core in one hand and the heavy berserk saber in the other. He raised his eyes slightly and coldly looked at City Yunxiao. The sky-splitting will in his eyes looked down on the earth. It could not be blasphemed. City Yunxiao's breath stagnated. His mouth twitched as he disdainfully asked, "Where are you going?" "To see someone," Yi Qinghan coldly said. "Phew." City Yunxiao frowned. "See Yi Qin." City Yunxiao was most familiar with the name Yi Qin. This name had tortured him for over 10 years. Kikik, City Yunxiao clenched his fists and stared at Yi Qinghan. He smiled cruelly and said, "That damn father of yours has already been in hell for 5 years. If you want to see him, this old man can send you on your way." Woo! The wind whistled and the murderous aura messed up Yi Qinghan's black hair. "It seems like you want me to start a massacre. Then from now on, there will no longer be a king's palace in Jiangning County." Yi Qinghan's heart was like a boulder. He never showed mercy to his enemies. If he could kill, he would kill. "Wait, Yi Qinghan. From the moment you revealed that you could cultivate, you had already lost. Now, there is only one path left for you, death." City Yunxiao felt Yi Qinghan's murderous aura and immediately said coldly, 2 hours ago, a death warrior left Jiangning County and took away 500 low-grade spirit crystals. As long as I am defeated or die here today, the 500 spirit crystals will be the money to buy your life. Whoever kills you will receive the 500 low-grade spirit crystals. 500 spirit crystals could attract many bitter C-stage experts to act. At that time, Yi Qinghan would have enemies all over the world. 500 low-grade spirit crystals can buy my life? Yi Qinghan laughed wildly, full of mockery. The saber core slammed into the violent heavy saber. Its aura collapsed and went against the heavens. So what if the whole world is my enemy? At most, I will crush this Shaoyun star. An arrogant voice caused the snow to stop and freeze in midair. It was as if time and space were frozen. Yi Qinghan's aura rose. Even a 5th-grade violent heavy saber emitted an arrogant aura that was difficult to resist. City Yunxiao sucked in a breath of cold air. He took out a 4th-grade spirit sword and placed it in front of him to protect himself. He was intimidated by Yi Qinghan's aura and did not dare to move recklessly. "If you don't retreat, then you will all be buried with him." With a cold shout, the violent heavy saber was unsheathed. The saber chi was unstoppable, and the saber light shot out in all directions. Violent mountain-breaking style. Chua. Boom! The saber hummed like a tiger and a dragon. The luxurious county king's mansion collapsed, flattened by the saber chi. The speed was too fast, so fast that no one could react. City Yunxiao only saw him lift the saber a second ago, and in the next second, the saber chi poured out of his body. The 4th-grade spirit weapon in front of his chest did not have any effect. Even his body was cut in half by the saber light. The land within 1,000 meters was flattened by the saber. The county king's mansion was crushed by true essence, turning into fine powder that scattered away with the wind. Yi Qinghan staggered. He felt as if his soul was about to leave his body and his divine sense was in chaos. He stabbed his saber into the ground and grasped a spirit crystal in his palm, crazily absorbing the spiritual energy within it. The palm-sized spirit crystal quickly dimmed and turned into fine powder. With a light pinch, it scattered away with the wind. The boundless spiritual energy turned into a trickle that rushed into his chi sea. It was like the eye of the sea, spreading out in all directions. It filled his blood and marrow, quickly restoring his combat strength. A second spirit crystal appeared, and in the blink of an eye, it was sucked dry. Yi Qinghan looked at the shattered spirit crystal and couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. This sort of low-level spirit crystal did not have much use for him. It was only slightly better than the purple light wine. As far as the eye could see, besides the corpses and broken walls, there was not a single person left standing. City Yunxiao's pupils dilated. Even in death, He had no idea how Yi Qinghan had managed to unleash such a terrifying attack. Yi Qinghan pulled out his saber core and walked 10 meters in a single step. He reached out and cut off Sidi Yunxiao's head, quickly leaving the county king's mansion. No one dared to stop him, not even the Jiangning army that had heard the commotion. The razed county king's mansion was in an incomparably tragic state, shivering in the cold wind. What a terrifying attack! If such an attack were to hit the army, would we be able to stop it? The army commander's face was deathly pale. The army automatically moved aside, not daring to look directly at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan carried Sidi Yunxiao's head and quickly rushed out of Jiangning County, heading straight for Myriad Mountain Town. Woo-woo! Yi Qinghan's clothes fluttered in the wind. Like a hidden dragon, his feet left no footprints on the snow. The next day, at Myriad Mountain Town at the foot of Blood Bone Mountain, Yi Qinghan shattered Yi Chen's grave with his saber, took out the coffin, and directly carried it back to the Yi clan. Everyone in the Yi clan saw Yi Qinghan carrying the coffin and carrying a head. They were so scared that their faces turned ashen, especially those of the younger generation. When they saw Yi Qinghan, their bodies trembled. Yi Kuang personally came out to welcome him. When he saw Yi Qinghan carrying Sidi Yunxiao's head, he clamped his legs together and felt a piercing pain in his spine. You killed County King Situ? Yi Kuang was not happy, but shocked. He felt as if the sky had collapsed. I don't need to explain anything to you. Take me to the ancestral grounds, Yi Qinghan coldly said. Yi Kuang was drenched in cold sweat. He quickly brought Yi Qinghan to the ancestral grounds behind the mountain. In the ancestral grounds behind the Yi clan, the graves formed a huge cemetery. Every member of the Yi clan was buried here, meaning that they returned to their roots. The higher the grave, the higher the status, and the greater the contribution to the Yi clan. Halfway up the mountain, the Yi clan's old ancestor was located. Yi Qinghan carried the coffin to the middle of the mountain. He dug a deep hole next to the old ancestor's grave and placed the coffin in it. He set up a stone tablet and carved a few words on it. Then, he placed Sidi Yunxiao's head in front of the tablet. Although you are not my real father in soul, you are my father in blood. I helped you raise the county king's mansion. I hope you can rest in peace. Yi Qinghan deeply bowed and said in a low voice. After burying Yi Chen, the secular world was over. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath, turned around, and left the mountain. When he arrived at the Yi clan, he looked at everyone without any emotion. Chapter 48. Endless snowy mountains rose and fell, and a lone figure was traveling far away. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, and silver light decorated the mountains and rivers. There were no other colors. Hey, why don't we go to the 100,000 mountains? I can't feel the slightest bit of spiritual energy if we go to this godforsaken place. The white parrot looked at the road ahead and couldn't help but cry out in dissatisfaction. I can only unleash the power of one strike. Are we courting death if we go to the depths of the 100,000 mountains? Yi Qinghan was too lazy to look at the parrot. Then where are we going? I'll tell you the truth. There are no treasures nearby, and you don't want the treasures in the Sky Sword sect. The parrot shook its head and sighed with disappointment. It's not a good thing for me to take the treasures in the Sky Sword sect. Let's go east now. Our next stop should be ancient Lulan. Yi Qinghan carried the heavy berserk saber that weighed a few hundred kilograms and walked into the distance. The far west of the kingdom of Azure Sun was a barren land. The closer one went to the east, the stronger the spiritual energy, the stronger the cultivators, and the better the treasures. The Azure Sun Desert was a natural barrier that separated ancient Lulan and the kingdom of Azure Sunday. Otherwise, with ancient Lulan's strength, it could have annexed the kingdom of Azure Sun long ago. The snow on the neighboring mountain was getting less and less, and there was some sunlight ahead. Yi Qinghan quickened his pace and stepped over a hill that was dozens of meters high. The Eastern civilization came into view. Vast ancient forests with towering trees and majestic spiritual energy formed waves of air. It was simply inconceivable that the kingdom of Azure Sun, separated by a mountain, was so barren. Wow, what a great place! The parrot's eyes glowed as it drooled. Green mountains and clear waters, hundreds of flowers bloomed, and there was no trace of cold. The strange geographical environment made Yi Qinghan exclaim in amazement. There are spiritual herbs ahead, a large area of second-grade spiritual herbs. The parrot suddenly pointed to the southeast and shouted. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. Second-grade spiritual herbs cost an average of 100 taels of silver per stalk, which was equivalent to 1 tael of gold. If it was a large area, it would be a good profit. Whoosh, stepping on the green grass, each step covered a distance of tens of meters. A small river flowed towards the east, crossing from east to west. On both sides of the 20-meter-wide river, there were spiritual grasses everywhere, full of spiritual energy. Yi Qinghan didn't ask what they were used for. He began to harvest them on a large scale. He collected thousands of second-grade spirit herbs in a row. Finally, he found a third-grade spirit herb. He put it in his bag and prepared to go to the big city. When they arrived at the end of the river, they found a natural ravine in front of them. The river water flowed down, forming a huge waterfall. No wonder there are so many spiritual grasses that no one wants. It turns out that there is a heavenly sword blocking the way. Yi Qinghan looked at the bottomless chasm. The sides of the chasm were smooth, and there wasn't even a support point. Apart from birds, no one could come over from that side. As for those at the Grotto Heaven realm who could fly, they wouldn't be interested in these second-grade spirit herbs. Yi Qinghan retreated more than 10 meters. He increased his speed and charged forward like an arrow, crushing a mountain rock with his foot. Yi Qinghan had actually jumped across the bottomless ravine, which was 50 meters wide and 50 meters deep without any protection. Oh my God! You scared me to death! The parrot grabbed Yi Qinghan's clothes and shouted. It didn't remember that it was a bird that could fly. Boom! Yi Qinghan was still in the air, about 5 meters away from the other side. However, he used up all his energy and fell straight down. He pulled out the heavy berserk saber on his back and stabbed it into the cliff. Hua hua hua! Large amounts of rocks fell down. Yi Qinghan used the heavy berserk saber to cut the cliff, creating sparks as he fell faster and faster. Damn! I'm finished. I'll definitely fall to my death. Get lost. You bitch. You're a bird, can't you fly up and give me a push? Oh yes, I'm a divine bird. The parrot seemed to have reacted. It kept flapping its wings and looked at Yi Qinghan's falling figure. It couldn't help but laugh. Ha, idiot, this grandpa can fly. Yi Qinghan had already fallen more than 30 meters, but he still couldn't find a support point. He was so angry by the parrot's words that he wanted to pull out his heavy berserk saber and chop this bitch. Boom! Yi Qinghan glanced at a protruding support point. He stepped on it and stabbed his heavy berserk saber into the mountain, breaking the support point under his feet. Whoosh! The sound of air braking could be heard in the canyon. Yi Qinghan couldn't help but feel a chill. If he fell, there was no reason for him to be lucky. Yi Qinghan didn't dare to delay. He quickly took out Marugi's blood-bone dagger from his universe ring and used the heavy berserk saber and the dagger as a support point to climb up. Come on! The parrot carelessly cried out. Yi Qinghan climbed to the top of the cliff with difficulty. His face was red and he was constantly panting. Huff, 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 the master's physical strength is good, the parrot said with a smug face. Yi Qinghan reached out and grabbed the parrot's wings. He fiercely threw it to the bottom of the cliff. Its screams echoed through the valley. Fuck! It's useless. It's just giving me trouble. Yi Qinghan was flustered and exasperated. He directly cursed. After a long time, the parrot flew up from the bottom of the cliff. Its claws were holding an almost fully formed ginseng. It was full of spiritual energy and looked very lifelike. Master, don't be angry. I found something good for you. The parrot put down the ginseng and said flatteringly. Yi Qinghan didn't really want to be angry with this bitch bird. He looked down at the ginseng and his eyes couldn't help but light up. Sky Spirit Ginseng? Isn't this a 4th-grade elixir? Of course, I found it at the bottom of the cliff. I thought that master must have been cultivating day and night, so I brought it up to show my respect to you. The parrot didn't dare to show off anymore. It pushed the sky spirit ginseng to Yi Qinghan's side. Yi Qinghan unceremoniously put it away. He shook his head and said helplessly, "Let's go into the city. We'll sell these elixirs and herbs and see if we can buy pills that are suitable for us." A man and a bird quickly went down the cliff and came to a vast forest. Powerful fierce beasts ran amok. Eagles flew over their heads as if provoking them. But Yi Qinghan's qi and blood were too vigorous. Almost no fierce beasts dared to directly pounce on them. They sped all the way to the east. As long as they left the forest, they would be in the endless eastern civilization, the ancient Lulan country. The forest stretched for hundreds of miles. There were many nearby villages that hunted and searched for treasures. There were very few fierce beasts that were third-grade Bittersea realm and above. It was a paradise for adventurers. The Coiling Tiger Battle Squad had 6 people. They were all experts of the Blood Ignition realm. The leader was Coiling Tiger. He was a middle-aged man that was as strong as a tiger or bear. He was over 2 meters tall and held a large axe in his hand. He led the team to train in the forest. There were 4 men and 2 women. Other than Coiling Tiger, they were all around 20 years old. The 2 women couldn't be considered beautiful, but their figures were hot. Their clothes were also strange. Their legs were exposed, long and slender, and as white as celestial jade. Ooh! A mournful wolf howl reverberated for dozens of miles. Then, wave after wave of wolf howls spread out in all directions. The expressions of Coiling Tiger and the others changed. They hurriedly put down the roasted meat in their hands and stood back to back in defense. They looked around and discovered that a large pack of second-grade high-level wolves had surrounded them. There were at least 30 of them. 30 Blood Ignition realm experts. There were also a few existences that were equivalent to the middle stage of the Blood Ignition realm. The Wolf King was even at the peak of the Blood Ignition realm. "It's over. We've been surrounded." A young man cried out. "Stay calm. Shoot with all your might." Coiling Tiger tightened his grip on his crossbow. He knocked 3 iron arrows and shot them out with all his might. Shio shio shio. More than 10 iron arrows pierced through the air and shot toward the wolf pack. However, the wolf pack's speed was much faster than they had imagined. With just a few dodges, they all evaded. Woo! The Wolf King once again howled, ordering the wolf pack to attack. The remaining Blood Ignition experts supported each other as they did their best to block the wolf pack. They managed to kill a few of the weaker wolves, but one of the youths was also bitten to death by the wolf pack, opening up a gap. The others also suffered some light injuries. However, Coiling Tiger relied on his brute strength to forcibly push back the wolf pack. Looking around, the young man who had been bitten had already been dismembered. His legs had been bitten off, and there was a fist-sized hole in his throat. His neck had almost been bitten off. "We're dead for sure. Uncle Hu, I don't want to die." "Ooh. Uncle Hu, what should we do?" The 2 men and 2 women huddled together. Seeing the wolf pack about to attack again, their eyes were filled with despair. "Fight. Our speed is not as fast as theirs. If we retreat now, we'll definitely die." Coiling Tiger gripped his huge axe and angrily glared at the Wolf King. His expression sank as he said to the people behind him, "You guys fight with your lives on the line. I'll go kill the Wolf King." Yi Qinghan frowned and looked toward the southeast. Hearing the wolf howls, he decided to change direction. "Master, there's high-grade Ling Qi in that direction. Don't you want to go take a look?" The parrot hurriedly said. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. The wolf pack was not a threat to him. If there really was a good treasure, then it was reasonable to waste some energy. Around 10 miles away, Yi Qinghan cautiously walked toward the direction the parrot had pointed out. However, he didn't know that this place had become hell on earth. The second wave of attacks was launched. The wolf pack once again pounced on 4 people. Their sharp teeth shattered rocks and iron. One of them was careless and was bitten in the leg. He was quickly dragged away by the wolf pack. His heart-wrenching scream caused the 2 girls to turn pale. Their bodies went limp and they no longer had the strength to fight. However, Coiling Tiger had also reached the Wolf King and was attacking with all his might. In this short period of time, the Wolf King and the Wolf King were both injured. Huff, 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 Coiling Tiger's huge axe was swung vigorously, leaving no blind spots. However, his energy consumption was also astonishing. If they couldn't kill the Wolf King in a short period of time, they would definitely be wiped out. Wolves were extremely patient, not to mention a second-rank Wolf King. They quickly dodged and didn't fight head-on with Coiling Tiger. After an incense stick's worth of time, Coiling Tiger was gasping for breath. Seeing that his stamina was about to run out, the three youths felt even more despair. At this moment, Yi Qinghan brought the parrot to the front of the battlefield. He swept his gaze over the wolf pack and asked, "Is the high-grade Ling Qi you mentioned here?" "It's in the valley opposite. It's behind that big wolf dog." The parrot pointed at the Wolf King and said, "Big wolf dog?" The Wolf King had noticed Yi Qinghan the moment he arrived. Sensing danger, it quickly separated from Coiling Tiger and angrily glared at Yi Qinghan. Hearing the parrot call it a big wolf dog, it couldn't help but reveal its savage fangs. Chapter 49. The Wolf King angrily glared at Yi Qinghan and the parrot, constantly growling and threatening them. Coiling Tiger and the rest saw that the Wolf King was actually afraid of Yi Qinghan, a young man who was only at the early stage of the blood ignition realm. They were both surprised and happy. "Brother, save our lives. Once we get out of this forest, we will definitely repay you." Coiling Tiger swallowed a few true elemental dawn and took the opportunity to recover his strength. He did not forget to ask for help. "Young master, save us. These fire cloud wolves seem to be very afraid of you." The two lucky survivors and the only remaining young man had their clothes torn and were riddled with wounds. Seeing Yi Qinghan, they finally saw hope and hurriedly begged. Yi Qinghan's killing intent was too heavy. Every move of his was linked to the general situation. As a human, it was very difficult to detect. However, these intelligent animals could easily sense the threat from Yi Qinghan. Big wolf dogs scram, "You are blocking the master's path." The parrot looked at the dozens of wolves and disdainfully said, "Awo!" The Wolf King let out a low howl. More than 20 fire cloud wolves bared their teeth and howled. They all rushed towards Yi Qinghan. These low-level vicious beasts like to live in packs. They had high intelligence and were very united, especially the fire attribute fire cloud wolves. The fire poison in their teeth was very strong. Even if a blood ignition realm expert was bitten, if they were not treated in time, they would very likely die. However, these fire cloud wolves were very easy to deal with. They revered the fire element and were afraid of all creatures that could breathe fire. They would worship powerful creatures that could breathe fire as gods. In his previous life, the Yi clan had raised many fire cloud wolves to guard their home. Breathe fire and drive them away. Yi Qinghan did not stop and quickly walked towards the Wolf King. The parrot opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of fire. The Wolf King was startled. It immediately lay down and howled, expressing its submission. "Ah, this divine bird said that I was a high-level divine bird. These big wolf dogs are afraid of me." Seeing the Wolf King submit, the parrot immediately became very cocky. The Wolf King surrendered, and so did the 20 or so fire cloud wolves behind it. They all looked at the parrot in a different way, as if they were mortals looking at a god. "Tell them to retreat. Don't waste time," Yi Qinghan said coldly. He no longer wanted to communicate with this stupid bird. The parrot shouted, "Get up, walk 2 laps, and get the hell out of here." The Wolf King understood human nature and understood what the parrot was saying. It hesitated for a moment, then got up and circled around twice. Then, it led the pack of fire cloud wolves and rushed into the distance. Yi Qinghan glanced at Coiling Tiger and said in a low voice, "You guys wait here for me. I need a tour guide later." Yi Qinghan's simple stare caused Coiling Tiger's entire body to tremble, as if he was being stared at by a bitter sea stage expert. Even if he was at the peak of the blood ignition stage, he did not dare to refute Yi Qinghan's words. "Yes, young master," Coiling Tiger respectfully replied. Yi Qinghan took the parrot and rushed towards a valley in front of him, leaving the 4 people looking around in horror. "Uncle Tiger, is that person senior? Why does his cultivation seem so ethereal like he's at the blood ignition stage, but also like a bitter sea stage expert. One of the young girls asked in shock. I don't know, but I also have the same feeling. His entire person seems ethereal. However, he saved our lives, so let's not think too much about it. You guys quickly recover your strength. We'll wait for him for a while, Coiling Tiger said in a low voice. Their mood was very gloomy. Looking at the bitten corpses, they felt as if their hearts were being cut by a knife. The powerful Coiling Tiger battle squad was very united. Their relationship with each other was like that of a life and death situation. Losing 2 of their core members in one go was definitely painful. Within the valley, Yi Qinghan scanned his surroundings. The beautiful environment with green mountains and clear waters, with tender willows hanging on the surface of the lake. A gentle breeze blew, causing layers of waves to appear. It was too beautiful to behold. At the bottom of the lake, there are treasures. They're definitely worth a lot. The parrot was incomparably excited. It stared at the large lake for a while and said with satisfaction, "The bottom of the lake is very safe. There are no large beasts. Don't worry, I'll keep watch for you on the shore." Yi Qinghan clearly did not believe the words of this lowly bird. His divine sense passed through the surface of the lake and went straight to the bottom. He discovered that the lake was more than 10 meters deep and there were indeed no large beasts. In the center of the lake, there was a large black iron box that emitted a faint pressure. If he did not take the initiative to go to the bottom, he would not have discovered this iron box. The iron box attracted spiritual energy to continuously gather at the bottom of the lake. It was very strange. Plop! Yi Qinghan jumped into the bottom of the lake. Holding the heavy berserk blade, he quickly reached the bottom. He discovered that the spiritual energy at the bottom of the lake was so dense that it was almost liquid. He could not help but marvel at what was inside the iron box. It was actually able to gather so much spiritual energy at the bottom of the lake. Good water. If I can use the water at the bottom of the lake to refine purple light wine, the effect would definitely be 4 or 5 times stronger. Yi Qinghan secretly said to himself. He grabbed the iron box and placed it into the heaven and earth ring. Then he took out a heaven and earth pot and filled it with more than 500 pounds of lake water. He quickly went ashore. Using his true essence to dry his clothes, Yi Qinghan took out the iron box. He discovered that the iron box was actually completely sealed. There were no gaps, but the inside was hollow. Moreover, there were treasures hidden within. This kind of thing could only be created by a high-level refiner. Just this iron box alone could be worth several hundred low-grade spirit crystals. Yi Qinghan forced out a drop of blood essence to make the iron box recognize him as its master. With a move of his divine sense, the iron box automatically opened, causing his eyes to brighten. It was a very delicate set of spirit-gathering swords. The 4 swords were about 2 feet long, sparkling and translucent. They emitted a bejeweled aura and actively gathered spiritual energy. Yi Qinghan held them in his hand and discovered that the spiritual energy was constantly rushing into his body. What a clever refiner technique. She actually managed to put a spirit-gathering array into the 4 swords. This refiner is definitely a clever woman. It is impossible for a man to be so meticulous. Yi Qinghan could not help but admire this refiner. He would not be able to learn this refiner technique in a short period of time. Otherwise, if he could put a high-level spirit-gathering array into the heavy wild saber, he would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Yi Qinghan casually played with the swords a few times. He discovered that the 4 swords were connected to each other. Once they were touched, they would move the entire body. They were unpredictable and were already comparable to a 5th-grade spirit treasure. Unfortunately, they were too light and not suitable for him to use. Giving Meng Shi is not bad. She is a qi refiner and specializes in the soul. She can control the swords. Yi Qinghan stared at the swords and pondered for a long time. He still could not figure out how this refiner managed to put such a high-level spirit-gathering array into the 4 swords. Master, not bad, right? I am very useful, right? No matter how deeply hidden a treasure is, I can find it within 100 li. The parrot said smugly. Yi Qinghan could not help but admire this kind of gifted little thing. Although it did not seem very useful and would only cause trouble for him, its treasure hunting ability alone was enough to make anyone drool. It is indeed not bad. Wait until we enter the city. I will let you have a good meal. Yi Qinghan put the 4 swords back into the iron box and put them back into his spatial ring. Then he stepped out of the valley. Coiling Tiger and the others looked at Yi Qinghan with reverence. They did not dare to ask anything and only spoke a few words. Young master, may I ask where you are going? I am very familiar with the surroundings several hundred li. I am at your service at any time. Coiling Tiger said respectfully. Take me out of the forest. Explain to me the 3rd rank and above forces in ancient Lulun. Yi Qinghan said indifferently. I know. A woman dressed in sexy clothes quickly said. Let me introduce you. I am Coiling Tiger, a loose cultivator. This older girl is Hua Feier, 19 years old. The younger girl is her younger sister, Hua Yer, 18 years old. We are all side family members of the Hua clan. This boy is Chen Song, an orphan, 20 years old. He is an expert treasure hunter of my Coiling Tiger squad. Coiling Tiger pointed at the remaining 3 people. They were all in the blood ignition realm despite their young age. This was due to the location. The spirit chi here was abundant. There were many in the blood ignition realm, but not many in the bitter sea realm. However, there were many more in the bitter sea realm than in the Azure Sun Kingdom. Let's talk as we walk. Yi Qinghan looked at them and nodded. These people could not be considered geniuses. Their aptitudes were average. If they had good resources, it would be good if they could reach the Grotto Heaven realm. There was no need to waste time. The 5 of them walked slowly. The other 4 collected spirit herbs while explaining the division of forces in ancient Lulun to Yi Qinghan. In ancient Lulun, there were 2 4th-rank forces. One was the Lulun imperial family and the other was the Buddhist sect. Each 4th-rank force had more than 10 3rd-rank sects or clans. They were very powerful. In Flaming Cloud City, the Hua clan was a 3rd-rank force. The area within 500 li of Flaming Cloud City was the territory of the Hua clan. The Hua clan had more than 1,000 adult disciples. Their cultivation was not inferior to the early stages of the blood ignition realm. There were no less than 5 experts at the 3rd star of the Bitter Sea realm or above. Is there a Spirit Treasures Pavilion here? Yi Qinghan asked. The Spirit Treasures Pavilion is a force that covers the entire continent. Even 4th-rank forces are not willing to offend them. Naturally, they can stand firm in ancient Lulun, Hua Feier explained. However, Flaming Cloud City hasn't been peaceful recently. I don't know what's wrong with the auction house, but they actually supported a vicious force to rise up here. They fought with the Hua family several times, and both sides suffered great losses. These people went around snatching female cultivators, and now, they won't even let men go. Everyone who was captured by them mysteriously disappeared. Coiling Tiger looked at Yi Qinghan's vigorous face and thought for a moment before saying, Young master, be careful. Don't leave the city at night because they target outsiders. They will pay special attention to strangers who come to Flaming Cloud City. Yi Qinghan did not care about the vicious force that Coiling Tiger mentioned. If someone could kidnap him, then something would really happen. However, the auction house was a legitimate force. It existed in almost every continent. For them to secretly support such a force, there must be a motive. What he really needed to pay attention to was the auction house. The group of 5 walked out of the forest after 6 hours. A large ancient city appeared in front of them. It was many times larger than Jiangning County. Ancient buildings rose from the ground. The city walls were more than 30 meters high and were surrounded by formations. Even if hundreds of Bitter Sea realm beasts attacked the city, they would be able to resist for several months. Yi Qinghan followed Coiling Tiger and the others to the outskirts of Flaming Cloud City. He discovered that there were several strangely dressed people staring at him. Their gazes were as if they were looking at goods. He could not help but sneer. Chapter 50. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a sinister smile. Anyone who dared to plot against him in this world would either die or wait for death. The city defense army was stationed there. These people would not go so far as to capture prey in broad daylight, but they watched as Yi Qinghan entered the city. The moment he entered Lulan's fire cloud city, a desolate aura assaulted him. It was as if he had returned to the ancient era. Yi Qinghan looked at the layers of ancient buildings and felt as if he had returned to the Battle Owl Star. His heart palpitated. "Take me to the restaurant and you can leave," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice as he thought of Owl War Star. "Young Master Yi, it's not convenient for you to stay in a restaurant alone. Moreover, you're not familiar with this place. They'll trick you. Why don't you stay at my place?" Huofeier's eyes flickered as she spoke timidly. "That's right, big brother Yi. Our house is located in the periphery of the Hua clan. There's only the two of us at home. Our parents left us such a big house with many empty rooms. It's very convenient. Moreover, you've just arrived at Flaming Cloud City and will definitely need a guide. We can help you at any time." Perhaps it was Yi Qinghan's vicissitudes of life and arrogance, or perhaps it was his devilishly handsome face, or perhaps it was his mysterious aura that attracted the sisters to take the initiative to extend an olive branch and invite a strange man to stay in their home. Staying in Huofeier's home wasn't a problem in itself. In fact, it might even attract trouble. But Yi Qinghan truly needed a guide so that he wouldn't wander around aimlessly. If someone could act as a guide, that would naturally be good. "Is it convenient?" Yi Qinghan's voice was a little hoarse. After 2 days of running around, he really didn't want to move around anymore. "It's convenient. My house is not far from here. It's in the suburbs, so it's very quiet," Huofeier said excitedly. When Chen Song saw Huofeier take the initiative to invite Yi Qinghan, hostility and dissatisfaction appeared in his eyes. However, he told himself in the depths of his heart not to go against this mysterious man, so he restrained his hostility. Yi Qinghan nodded and said, "All right, I will pay you 100 taels of gold a day as a reward." Huofeier and her sister's eyes lit up, clearly very happy. Coiling Tiger bowed and said, "Young Master Yi, thank you for saving my life. If you have any problems, you can come to the Western District to find me. If it's within my power, I won't disappoint you." "All right, let's go back." Yi Qinghan gestured for Huofeier to lead the way, and the three of them quickly ran towards the East District's suburbs. Shenzong clenched his fists. The hostility in his eyes surged again as he glared at Yi Qinghan. "Don't go against him. He's very dangerous." Coiling Tiger coldly reminded Shenzong when he saw the angry Shenzong. "Uncle Hu, is this person really that strong? He didn't even make a move. It was only that little parrot on his shoulder that could breathe fire. Why don't we kill him and take his parrot? It will be much safer for us to enter the forest in the future." Chen Song viciously said. "What nonsense are you spouting? First of all, he saved us. How can we repay his kindness with enmity? Moreover, I admit that I am not his match. Even if we join hands, we might not be his match. Moreover, looking at Huofeier and Huoyer's attitude, I'm afraid that they have fallen in love with this man." Coiling Tiger coldly warned Chen Song. "Chen Song, it wasn't easy for you to reach this step. Don't let love get to your head. Huofeier doesn't love you, nor does Huoye. They might look carefree, but they like the feeling of being conquered. If you want to marry either of them, you have to be stronger than them. Moreover, you have to suppress the younger generation of Flaming Cloud City. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. I can't accept this. I've liked Huofeier for so long, and she actually invited another man to her home in front of me. Moreover, it's a stranger. I haven't received this kind of treatment in so many years." Chen Song was incomparably furious. Flames spewed from his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to burn Yi Qinghan to death. "Sai, why bother?" Coiling Tiger shook his head. He stared at Yi Qinghan's departing figure and said in a low voice, "With my many years of experience, this child is definitely not an ordinary person. Huofeier can't pursue him, but you still have a chance. However, you have to change your temperament. Otherwise, you will be the one to suffer." Finally, Coiling Tiger pulled Chen Song back to the western region. Yi Qinghan followed the two beautiful sisters to a simple courtyard. It was surrounded by mountains and rivers. There were very few people and it was very peaceful. "Big brother Yi, You should rest for a while. I'll boil some hot water for you to take a bath. It will be dark soon. If you have something to do, we can do it tomorrow. How about it? Hua Fei didn't hide her adoration as she excitedly asked. Sure. Yi Qinghan was incomparably cold. He wasn't willing to say more. Hua Fei brought Hoya to arrange a small courtyard for Yi Qinghan and then left to get busy. Yo-ho, a hot beauty. The parrot grinned and said in a strange voice, Take your sister. Get lost. Don't bother me if you have nothing to do. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. Are you a man or not? You don't like men, do you? You're two beautiful sisters and you're so hot. Why don't you take the initiative to come to my door? The parrot was dissatisfied, as if it had suffered a loss. Yi Qinghan coldly looked at the parrot. A cold light flickered in his eyes, and the parrot immediately fell silent. What a blockhead! This divine bird went to look for treasures. There are actually many good things in this city. The parrot resentfully left. It didn't know how much trouble it would bring to Yi Qinghan. Half an hour later, the two beautiful sisters brought a bucket of hot water. Yi Qinghan soaked in the bucket, using the stone milk essence to refine his body. Unfortunately, he needed too much energy, and the stone milk was no longer of any use. True essence swam through his limbs and bones. The extreme divine dragon steps turned into specks of golden light that dived into every corner of his body, fusing with the violent cycle saber arts. The tiny figure in his sea of consciousness crazily cultivated, and the large saber danced without any flaws. His soul had completely stabilized at the peak of the blood ignition realm, but his strength remained at the middle stage. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment and felt that it was time to break through to the peak of the blood ignition realm. He then took out the Sky Spirit Ginseng. The Sky Spirit Ginseng's spiritual energy was overwhelming, and it was vivid and lifelike. Even a heavenly passage realm powerhouse couldn't swallow it, but Yi Qinghan could. This was because his method of controlling true essence had already reached the pinnacle. Yi Qinghan placed the grade 4 spirit sword set on the bed and chewed on half of the Sky Spirit Ginseng. Boundless spiritual energy rushed out, rushing through his limbs and bones. His blood boiled, and his blood became extremely tyrannical. His true essence roared like a river bursting through a dam. Boom, boom, boom. His true essence constantly broke through the bottleneck, and a small portion of it was used to temper his body. It seemed that Yi Qinghan was preparing to forge his body into a divine weapon. His physical body was enough to destroy the heavens and earth, and he could control 10,000 spirits with one hand. Even an emperor weapon could not harm him. Now he was certain that a grade 2 spirit weapon could not harm him in the slightest. Even if an early-stage bitter sea expert used a grade 2 spirit weapon, he could still shatter it with one punch. The pressure grew stronger and stronger, enveloping the entire room. Hua Fei looked at Yi Qinghan's room. Just as she was about to approach, she was pushed back several meters by a wave of energy. Although the energy was gentle, it could rush into the depths of her sea of consciousness, filled with tyranny and arrogance. The realm of the gods, entering meant certain death. What a strong man. If we can make him stay, we may be able to break through to the Hua family's direct line of descent. Hua Fei's eyes flashed, and her jade-like hands trembled as she pulled Hoya. Sister, will he stay? Hoya's breathing quickened as she asked nervously. If I can't do it alone, then you go too. I don't believe he can resist the charm of the two of us. Hua Fei said proudly. The two of them could not be considered to be devastatingly beautiful, but in terms of temperament, appearance, and knowledge, they were confident that they would not lose out to any woman in terms of taking care of men and pleasing them. Hoya's face flushed red as she timidly looked at Hua Fei. Thinking of the two sisters serving the same man at the same time, her little heart beat uncontrollably. We sisters are one, there is no distinction between each other, let alone a man. Such a man is worthy of us. Hua Fei said in a serious tone. I'll listen to sister. Hoya's face was as tender as a sprout. Remember, you have to understand men. This kind of man is old-fashioned and definitely does not like unrestrained women. We have to know when to advance and when to retreat. Charming but not seductive, beautiful but not unrestrained. We have to move his heart, not his body, understand? Huofei'er said in a low voice. The parents of this pair of sisters had passed away early, and they relied on Huofei'er to make a living. If they were not smart, they would not have lived so freely. It was very likely that they would have become the slaves of others, or even died long ago. Yi Qinghan was focused on breaking through, so he didn't know that these two beautiful sisters were discussing how to take him in. At this moment, his true essence had already formed into waves. Wave after wave spread out, creating huge waves that were several meters tall that surged within his qi sea. He was already close to the peak of the blood ignition realm. His soul did not forcefully comprehend the bitter sea stage, but instead focused on activating his true yuan. Ka. His true yuan was like a heavy wild blade, extremely tyrannical and invincible. Everywhere it passed, there was nothing that did not submit. Woo. The waves of qi formed a special heavy wild blade, formed from his true yuan. It was like a real person wielding the heavy wild blade, striking at the bottleneck. The bottleneck broke, and the bottleneck that was as stable as a boulder quickly collapsed under the continuous attacks. Heavenly divinity transformation, true yuan like a blade, wild in all directions, reversing the heavens, attacking madly, subduing the world. Break for me, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. The heavy wild blade that was placed beside the bed let out a light hum, trembling, as if it was about to collapse. Bang, attacking madly, the bottleneck was completely shattered. His true yuan whizzed past, forming a cycle within his body that constantly circulated. Huofei'er and Huoya were enveloped by a terrifying pressure, as if they were facing an unparalleled expert. Their breathing was somewhat heavy, and their eyes were filled with fear and awe. Yi Qinghan did not care so much. He gathered more and more true yuan, but it was not enough. He did his utmost to temper his body, and the little person in his body was also cultivating the extreme divine dragon steps and the heavy wild blade technique. It was as if his soul had been split into two, controlling his true yuan. To outsiders, this was somewhat inconceivable. The remaining heavenly spirit ginseng was also swallowed by Yi Qinghan. He then restrained his aura, and the entire courtyard fell into silence. Even the birds did not dare to make a sound, and the insects also disappeared. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.